Welcome, everybody, to the Chapter 61 edition of A Cast on Titan. We're here today to take you guys' questions and talk about all the fun stuff that happened in Chapter 61. We're going to yell at each other a lot. We're going to argue about some things. We might agree with some things, but I strongly doubt it. And it's going to be a great time. So let's go ahead and introduce ourselves in case this is anybody's first listen to the podcast. So with that in mind, I gotta stop saying that because I noticed the past couple of podcasts I've been editing, I say that a lot.
Stiller.
Do you really?
Yeah, I say, so with that in mind, or so moving on from that, like I use transitional phrases way too often. So not with that not in mind, while I try and come up with a new phrase for how I want to say that.
We should Stiller, let's go introduce ourselves.
We should introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
Starting with the guy who hasn't spoken yet.
Me?
Yeah.
Alright then. I am Scott, also Scotty V23 from the subreddit.
I'm Zach. I'm a mod.
I am Stiller3 from the subreddit. I am also a mod. But we're cool people, so don't hate us, please.
Lies.
Yeah, they're not that cool.
Hey, you.
Oh, snap.
Don't even go there.
You wouldn't know. You haven't been on the subreddit since before we were modded.
You don't want to go there, guy.
You're a horrible person.
I know I am. Do I care? No.
Alright. I almost said it again. I'm gonna have a hard time not saying it. Now that we've introduced ourselves, if, like we mentioned before, this is gonna be just about Chapter 61 and Chapter 60, we're gonna talk about our impressions of them, and we're not gonna dial anything back.
No holds bar.
Right. I lost my train of thought. What we need to address next is what happened last month. Last month we did our Chapter 60 podcast, and after recording, I went to edit it a day after, and the Aberrant podcast came out fine. There was no distortion or anything weird with that one. But with the Chapter 60 podcast, there was a lot of weird sounds coming from it. People's voices were distorted. You guys saw that I made the post about how it became unsalvageable, and we just decided not to do it because there was some time left, and we were going to address it in this podcast. So
we already recorded 3 hours on it.
Right, so going on from here, what we're going to do is give our impressions of what we thought of Chapter 60 before we do our impressions of 61. Starting with whoever wants to talk about that first.
I do have to say, with that in mind, I went back to refresh my memory on Chapter 60 just before this podcast, and I'm definitely super biased because of Chapter 61 and how good that was, giving a little bit of my impressions of Chapter 61 in that. But because of getting spoiled with that, I was just going through, I'm like, wow, not much happened in Chapter 60. But I'm pretty sure in the previous podcast pertaining to that chapter, I said it was a good chapter, and I stay, hold to that. I feel like it was good. It wasn't, great or anything. It wasn't memorable, as, I had to refresh my memory, so clearly not for me it was memorable, at least. But, yeah, no complaints about it.
Yeah, that said, after reading Chapter 61, Chapter 60 is super pale with a comparison just because that was a setup chapter for Chapter 61.
It's true.
So our memories not being great on it is probably just because the payoff for 61 was that good. So it's kind of hard to say if Chapter 60 was good or bad because following it up was a killer. Chapter 61 was great. As far as Chapter 60 goes, all I can remember is we had a great conversation. We
very, very long.
Yeah, we talked a lot about it was all mostly about Erwin's death, flag potential, maybe not. And that was the podcast that we had Robot on as our guest. And Robot contributed a lot to our conversation. He was very active in it. And we talked about all of your guys' questions. They weren't answered. I just, I can't salvage it to figure out who
you didn't believe us. Please don't kill us.
Yeah. That's about it. Well, Zach, what did you think of Chapter 60?
I wasn't very active in that podcast anyways. I was spaced out for most of it.
Oh, wait a minute. I remember. Okay, so Chapter 60. In Chapter 60, we got introduced to the mustache guy, right? The mustache guy who tried to convince the servant...
Oh yeah, Hanji kicked ass. That's what happened.
Yeah, Hanji had some great stuff going on. There was actually a couple scenes of people doing cool things, like Connie actually sliced a dude's leg. John shot a guy. The mustache.
And it looked like his gun was covered in blood. I remember that.
Yeah, the mustache guy tried to convince our Survey Corps to
turn themselves in.
The newspaper thing developed.
And Mikasa knows about the Ackerman family secret.
You mean, yeah, you say that, but if you look at that panel, it's just normal Mikasa standing there doing nothing face.
No, it's not. That's her shock face.
That's her shock face?
Mika had a great write-up about how... Mika had a great write-up going on about how Levi was, like, trying to cover it up and blah, 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 and I don't remember.
And we also got the scenes with Flegel being a cool guy. And Laurie, yeah, he did a cool thing with the trap that he led those guys into. I'm not sure any of us ever expected Flegel to ever turn out to be semi-important. I think most of us assumed he was going to be dead by this point.
I'm still not convinced he's really, truly important.
Zach, I'm sure you had a big thing to say about Hanji and her big role in the last chapter. She's doing her part. I'm not sure if I'm super impressed with Hanji from the last chapter. Or, as opposed to just saying, you know what, she's doing what she's supposed to be doing, she's filling her role, I don't dislike her. Right?
Well, saying you don't dislike someone, coming from you, that's like a massive compliment.
Yeah. It's okay.
That kind of reminded me, though. So now that Hanji, like, essentially was acting as a Survey Corps leader, but now Erwin's going to be back in commission, like, he's going to retake the throne, essentially?
God damn it, I've been saying this for a very long time, Scott. Start listening. He was not saying, you are now the Survey Corps leader. He's saying, if I die here, you will be the leader.
If you listen to what I said, Zach, I said she was acting like the Survey Corps.
No, she wasn't. She was on her own. It was her and Mobley. That's it.
Yeah, but that's, like, essentially all of the entire Survey Corps.
Except for Levi and Akasa and Armin and Sasha and John and Connie. Yeah.
And they're just all on their own. They retook the MP headquarters to try to find out where Eren and Historia were. And then besides that, there's nothing. They were waiting for orders from what Hanji was going to do and how they briefed Levi and his squad on the events that were going on in the city, and then Erwin in the trial. And that's it. That's the extent of the entire Survey Corps at this point.
So Scott, you were referencing something that happened in 61. As far as 60 goes, I think we've gotten as much that our memories is going to allow us to get about what our impressions were of that chapter. I think as far as everyone here goes, I think we could say it wasn't a bad chapter. It was an okay chapter. It wasn't a great chapter. There was some memorable stuff in it, like Flegel and Hanji doing some good things. Character development-wise, not a whole lot going on, I don't think, that I could remember.
That's about it.
Yeah, that's about it. Because that's it, I can't not transition with transitional words. Let's start talking about Chapter 61. What are our Chapter 61 impressions? What did you guys think of Chapter 61? Do I even need to ask?
It was awesome.
Amazing.
Calm down.
Yeah, so universally, everyone loves Chapter 61.
And I'd like to go on the record here and state that as soon as I saw those spoiler pictures, which caused me to instate those new Hitler rules, I'll be elaborating more on those next month. I knew that Wall Rose was not being breached. I am smart. I recognize that was Pixis's assistant.
I'm smart, he says.
I knew.
As he makes that voice, I knew.
So much fun. So much fun. Some people did get fooled by it, though. I think that's interesting. Yeah, some people thought it was real.
I mean, I almost knew immediately, just because when Erwin said, like, what happens if Wall Rose gets breached, in his spear analogy when he was making it to the council, I'm just like, oh, please don't make this be like a whatchamacallit moment where I'm blanking on his name.
Is this Ex Machina?
No. When in the very beginning, the first episode of the anime, in the first manga chapter, when I'm blanking on his name, help me out.
Aaron?
No. No.
Armin?
Yes, Armin. Thank you. When Armin was like, oh, the wall hasn't reached 100 years, then poof, just, oh, bitches, I'm here.
Aaron had a moment like that, too, with Honest. He was like, well, what if it gets breached today? Are you lazy drunks going to be able to handle it?
Yeah, but the point was, I knew that, or I hoped that it wasn't going to be another one of those moments. And then when the assistant broke in, I was like, okay, this has to be a setup. Because they already alluded to Erwin having, like, some sort of backup plan when they foreshadowed his talk with Pixis. So I'm like, alright, so what are they plotting? They clearly have a contingency plan on the horizon, you know, if shit gets crazy. And then the assistant breaks in, and then you see Erwin smile. So clearly Erwin was in on the joke beforehand, so it's like, you know, this is obviously not a true breach. But...
So just to be clear, we all had positive impressions of this chapter.
Yes.
I mean, Zach, I don't think really said it clearly. I didn't say
Loved it. Are you...
Great.
Wait, what? What?
Yeah.
Did you say I didn't say it clearly? I said it was fucking awesome! And are you just forgetting it or something? Has your mind been wiped, Stiller?
I didn't think that, Scotty, you mentioned their contingency plan. I don't really think they had too many contingency plans. I think they had a plan.
That's what I said, yeah.
Well, there was the plan of just argue your way through, and then there was the backup plan of, Wall Rose has been breached!
No,
They
no
knew
way.
that the talking option wasn't
there
even
was
an
no
option.
way they were going to be able to talk their way out of it. No way.
Because it's Erwin, there was a chance.
No, because Erwin made the perfect argument, and they basically said, yeah, you're probably right, but, alright, some of the guillotines now, just
Well,
if his
Erwin didn't know that they'd just say that. They could have said, or what they could have done is, oh, I suppose you're right. Erwin, fine, you're free to go.
Except
Erwin didn't know which way they'd go. That's why they had a contingency plan.
That was
There's
a
no
big
way
theme
they
of
do
this
that.
chapter. Like, we mentioned it in past podcasts where we had that argument with Scott about how the military police shouldn't give a fuck about anything. This is the chapter where they really showed off. Hey, we really don't give a shit about any of you guys and your rules. Erwin's speech couldn't have been more perfect, and even if it had been more perfect, the military police still would have been like, yeah, well, fuck you.
Because the military police already knew that they were in the wrong. They framed them, hence they realized that what they did was incorrect. So there was nothing that Erwin, wow, we didn't realize that framing you and trying to kill you was actually wrong. Now that we realize that, thanks to Erwin, you just told us, and we're going to set you all free. Like,
Well, he wasn't being tried by the CMP.
Because
the CMP was dead.
If Erwin had succeeded, most of the plot would be over.
Clear.
Yeah, except for, you know, Annie and Reiner Fertile and the Monkey Titan.
Most of the plot, because everything going on with Rod would be much more manageable. They'd have access to more resources. Everything would be a lot brighter. It wouldn't be much of a conflict left.
So kind of like it is right now.
Yeah, not really, because they still, they made a big deal of this chapter also about having to try and take over what resources they had and trying to figure out what we're going to do with these things, how we figure out how to use these things, how we introduce them now into our future strategies for whatever we're doing, as opposed to actually working with them who already know how to use all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
I love how in the scene they only had to cuff one of Erwin's hands. Like in the dungeon scene.
Yeah.
Just like, let's just tie this other sleeve up here just in case.
I want to agree with that guy on the subreddit who said, man, this panel was what was it, shaded? Shaded beautifully? The scene with Niall looking down at Erwin, who's laying on
it really
the ground,
is. I'm looking at it right now.
I agree. Super awesome. Beautiful panel.
Definitely.
Maybe,
that whole section, it just looks like someone else did the shading from the rest of the series.
Maybe panel of the chapter, because it was really good. I mean, that's never a thing we've done before, but it was really good.
Panel of the chapter would probably be the Zachary reveal.
I like that.
I don't know about panel of the chapter.
It gave me... this is interesting that they have a separate logo just for the entire military, because that makes 5 now.
I was confused, because I got Zachley's logo confused with the training people's logo.
No, the training people is 2 swords.
What was Zachley's? It was like a cross thing?
It's just this cross background with all those squares blacked out and no logo in the center.
I got really confused because it looks so similar. What do they represent? Is that like an actual...
It's just the military overall.
How is there an overall? Like, we have 3 divisions.
Yeah, there's the 3 divisions.
We have the CMP.
4 divisions.
And then we have the Zachary
CMPs.
people. Like,
Zachary controls everything. It's like, U.S. has the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force, and then there's Obama at the head.
But if he's everything...
Zachary is Obama.
Does that mean everybody is in the everything group? Like,
I know.
Does he pull people from the garrison and then make them change their clothes when he assigns them to things?
No, he's like Pixis and Irwin's boss.
Right, but like, I don't understand how his group.
I mean, like
everyone's boss.
It's not like Obama can't say, "Hey, Navy SEAL, you're in the Army now." He can't do that.
Scott,
Navy
actually,
is Navy.
That point I want to bring up next. If he can't be everyone's boss, because if he was everyone's boss, how did things get to the way they are now?
He's everyone in the military's boss.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Everyone in the military's boss. That's what I meant.
Right, okay.
But essentially, he's the most powerful person, as we've seen, because one of the perks to being head of the military means you've got all the manpower. So you're essentially the strongest branch of whatever political party or whatever governing party is in power. Because no one can tell you now, because it's like, well, I'm Zachary, and I control all the military branches, so therefore I win.
It's true, but I don't know, because the nobility and the king seem to be also really high up on the food chain, because they're not attached to the military, and they
I'm going to go ahead and make this example again. The nobles are like Congress, and the military is the military.
Yeah, but the military does what Congress says.
Not unless, yeah, but
so do they here.
But it's not as strict. It's not as strict. Like in our society, you couldn't. The military, whoever, I know Obama was technically, chief or whatever,
Commander Chief.
But there are people who specifically run, each faction of the military. So in that sense,
that's Irwin, Pixis, and Doc.
Yeah. But like Obama doesn't literally run the military on a day-to-day basis. That's just a title he has. Whereas Zachary literally runs that's his only job. That's what he does.
And if we go further down the rabbit hole, I'm not sure the analogy holds up when you start comparing Obama's power versus Congress to Zachary versus the military nobility.
You know what? I'm just trying to make it easier for you two to understand. Anyways, another detail I noticed was the leader guy from the trainee corps is actually here in this area, standing next to Pixis.
Does he have a name?
I don't think so, but he might have a name.
He might
according to the wiki, that random guy that was in Aaron's squad in the Battle of Tross that got eaten, he has a name. Does he have a line? No. Does he have a name? Yes.
Yeah, but that dude's not like the commander of some fucking squad thing.
Yeah.
If that guy's sitting next to Pixis...
I assume he does have a name. Okay?
These technical terms are thrown around. Commander of squad thing. Very...
Wait, that's
commander
actually,
of the trainee corps.
That's the perfect summary of this argument, because we're trying to compare things to other things, and it's confusing that the military structure is so different from the nobility or the whatever you want to call it, like a feudal ownership lord type system. We can't even compare their ranks because none of the terminology is consistent, and we can't throw them against each other.
I actually found his name. His name is kitchen character number 3.
Oh yeah,
that's his.
Yeah, kitchen.
I just found it. I looked it up.
I thought kitchen character number 3 was Mina. It's
number
not
4.
Mina?
Correction. I don't want to demean him. It's kitchen character number 4.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Alright.
That's a throwback. Very classic.
Let's move on.
Alright.
So, one complaint I have, not about the chapter, about the series in a whole.
Uh-oh.
Here we go.
Everyone in the fucking mother looks identical to Nick!
To Nick?
Really?
Pastor Nick.
Oh, okay, so the complaint here is that...
The CMP that Flegel was sitting on.
Yeah.
Sonis. The noble in this chapter. The CMP that's picking up Irwin and taking him to his execution.
Yeah.
They all look like Nick. In every chapter, I get so damn confused.
But what if this is a Fight Club thing, where the wall cult is actually operated kind of like Fight Club, where you all have to dress a certain way, you all have to...
I'm not talking about how they're dressed. I'm talking about how their face and hair look.
Yeah, well, Fight Club, a lot of people have similar faces, right?
Well, I don't know about Fight Club, and I know that's why you're making that analogy.
Well, I mean, you shouldn't know about Fight Club. That's one of the rules. Someone got... You got that, Scotty. Come on.
Sorry, say that one more time.
Thank you.
Forget it.
Anyways, yeah. Everyone
I heard the Fight Club reference.
Looks like Nick. That's my complaint.
I understood it still. It took me a second to process.
Thank you.
So,
But
should we move into the main argument of the chapter?
No, we should
no,
not.
it's not the main argument.
We have other stuff to talk about. So to start the chapter off with, what did you guys think about Erwin's analogy? His analogy of, we are the spear, we are the whatever. Robot commented in the general thread that it's actually a reference to some story.
Yeah.
And they're actually doing like a poetic reference thing. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, there were definitely people who got much more excited about it because they knew the reference, but coming from somebody who hasn't or doesn't know about the reference previous to that, it didn't, like, it was cool and all, like, I understood the reference, but it didn't necessarily mean all that much to me. It didn't impact me like, oh man, great reference. But it was.
I looked at it in a stupid way.
I'd say that Erwin is right though. The Server Core really is humanity's strongest weapon. They're the only ones that can really use the 3DMG.
I looked at it in a stupid way.
ODM gear, sorry, Funimation, don't sue me.
I looked at it where he said, what was it? The best way to defend humanity is with a spear, not a shield, right? How do
you protect yourself from an incoming enemy? Not with a shield. You eliminate the threat with a spear.
I said, no, Erwin. The best offense is a good defense. You need a good defense to be able to repel that shit.
The best defense is a good offense.
Yeah, but you can't repel.
So, do you want to go into just a constant loop here? For something?
No, but the statement that was the best offense is a good defense. There's no, like, you can say the counterpart to that, but the saying is best offense is a good defense.
Honestly, I wrote that down. I was just being stupid about it because I thought it was kind of weird to say it that way as opposed to saying it some other way, you know? Because you could turn that around. You could use it either way.
I completely agree with Erwin because, I mean, it takes a long time to repopulate, and it takes a very short amount of time to get decimated. So, since it's so easy to destroy than it is to create in terms of life, you have to be proactive with your attacks, because if you're just a sitting duck, and then you just, like, defend, and, oh, we only let them get one wall this time, it's like, by the time they strike again, and they take the next wall, you're not going to make anywhere near the gains in population that you need to sustain it, from concurrent attacks. So, his statement makes perfect sense in that sense.
I still kind of feel like it's more, he said it just for reference sake than for, let's say, poetic sake, because I think he could have put that in plain language and it would have worked out better.
Oh yeah, of course. It was like a nod to the audience in a sense.
I guess I can't complain about that. I'm not sure why I'm...
That's what Robot was saying. He was saying, I'm sure Erwin doesn't know the story himself, and it was mostly meant as just a little kickback to the audience.
That's true. So how about that whole Erwin being alive thing? Did we talk about that yet?
No, but I'm happy. I like it.
I'm still sad. I want death. I want destruction. I am sad that he didn't die.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are probably beating a dead horse here, but, I mean, I want that.
You just want anybody to die.
Basically.
I don't know why I keep specifying that you want anybody instead of just that one person, because I know by now. But
I do kind of want Erwin to die, too.
Yeah.
I'd rather the die instead of just anybody. Like, I mean, Erwin could have potentially died in a way that made sense, in that I would have felt like it was okay. But at the same time, it's like, what would it have accomplished for him to have gotten guillotined, like hung? Like, it doesn't...
Development for
either.
Nile.
Yeah, I guess, but Nile isn't that much of a main character. We already got development. We already got development.
I mean, you could say the same about Marlowe and Hitch.
No, I would say the same with Marlowe and Hitch, but we got the same development with Nile when he said, "Oh, I'm gonna defend Wall Rose. I'm gonna keep the gates open so that the refugees can get in. I don't care what these officers say above me. These heads of each of the factions. It's like I'm gonna do what's right." So that was already major development from Niles without him getting killed.
I am kind of in the same boat as Scott, where for the past couple months, past couple podcasts, we've been speculating when we talk about death flags. We say, oh, Erwin might die, Levi might die, whatever. Erwin's always been in that category. Yeah. He's always been one we've been worrying about. Maybe this chapter, maybe soon we're going to lose him, and that's going to have a huge impact on the people who were left, because we used to anticipate that the Survey Corps was going to have to operate without him, like, at all, instead of being, like, distantly connected. But having him alive is, like, last podcast, two podcasts before ago, I said, I want him to be alive. Normally, I want people to die a lot, but with Erwin, I think he's still important enough to the story that we can keep him around, and I'm still on my stance that this isn't the kind of show anymore where we can just kill off people whenever we want. You know?
But it should be.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Like,
yeah, I feel like that complaint's gone to the wayside.
Yeah, the random death thing, it's not what the show's about anymore. I don't know if it's ever been about that. Just those first couple times, just to get our mindset right before they shift us off into...
And also, to that point, when people say, like, oh, you know, the deaths in Attack on Titan, they're all, like, super random deaths, and they're not developed characters die, and it's like, but you have to put yourself in the position of the characters, and to them, it is a big deal when hordes and hordes of people that they know and that they trained with, maybe the audience doesn't connect with them, but you have to understand that the characters do sympathize with the fact that their comrades are dying. So it is impactful to the story in the sense of the character's reaction. Maybe not the audiences that's reading the story, but it does impact the story in a substantial way.
In a couple of times throughout the story, you basically do a feast and famine style splurge of character death where a lot of people die here, nobody dies for a while, a lot of people die there, so that when they start talking about some of these things where, oh, well, if you don't do this, Wall Rose is going to fall, or, oh, if you don't do this, whoever's going to die, there's more weight to it when you kind of try and throw in a little bit of random element to it. But we're at the point of the story now where there's not that much going on that would create sort of an element where we might see a mass amount of people die unless a bunch of loyalists to the current empire decide, fuck it, we're gonna seal ourselves away and take all the good stuff with us. I don't know. I mean, that's totally implausible. That would never happen. But moving forward, I think I'm going to echo what I said a couple podcasts ago and say I'm not expecting that sort of thing in the future. I don't think anybody should be, because it's I don't know if it's the right place anymore for that. Like, people compare this to Game of Thrones all the time. This is nothing at all like Game of Thrones.
To be honest, I don't think that the infrastructure of Attack on Titan could sustain a Game of Thrones-like character death development system, because, like, there's so many characters, so many factions. I mean, if even, like, half the amount of people died in Attack on Titan than compared to Game of Thrones, we'd be down to, like, two main characters.
And to that point, one of my frequent complaints has been characters that we keep getting introduced to keep having important ties. Everybody is somebody important. Like, the last person who broke that, I think, is the newspaper guy. And even he had a massive impact on the story by breaking the news that basically took away the military police's option to fucking throw Pixis and Zackley both in jail because the story's out to the public now. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
So they did a good job with the newspaper guys, I guess, sort of. But if we could get away from making I hate to go back to that, but the introduction of Kenny being an Ackerman, I'd like to stay away from that. If we can do that where Ymir is also not an Ackerman, that would be great. No more.
I don't think Ymir is going to be an Ackerman.
No more people are related to other people. Whoa, big impact. No more.
I don't even know how that's going to develop. Like, I'm scared to see how many just, like, fillers, you know, quote-unquote fillers, are going to be associated with, like, oh, let me see what's going on with the Ackerman clan. Like, oh man, these ties, what does it mean? Who am I? Like, I don't care. Like, it's just so, like, I mean, I don't want to get, like, you know, just like, oh, just character development. It's like, okay, but, like, you've had so much time to develop Mikasa. Like, I don't want you, like, at the tail end of a series to be like, oh, let's see what this character's going. Like, well, it's like I've already developed what I'm going to develop, the feelings. I'm not going to, like, in the last chapter of the entire show be like, oh, well, now the feels. It's like, no, you know, little too late.
Echoing a little bit of my notes. I didn't
Really?
even have to talk about Mikasa. You did it for me. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You can't talk about Mikasa. It's a physical impossibility.
I mean, there's not much to talk about right now.
No. It's a physical impossibility for you to talk about her. All you can do is rant.
Oh, okay. Well, how about we try this then? What did Mikasa do in Chapter 61?
What?
No one did anything in Chapter 61 that was from that group, so that's not an argument.
That entire group.
She was in the chapter, though. We saw a panel of her in the chapter.
Yeah, but we saw a panel of all of that Squad 104.
Yeah, and most of them were celebrating. What did Mikasa do? She stared at us and didn't do anything.
No, it looks like she's hugging Armin.
By the way,
Armin hugging her.
No, she's got her arm around him, and he's crying.
Everyone's looking over the huge character development of Connie when he embraced and cried, and it showed his emotions, and that's probably why it's monkey trouble. So just
he also did a flying jump kick. That's why I can't take anything from that panel seriously.
It's because you see, you have to go through motions.
John's like fucking praying or something.
In order to transform into monkey trouble, you have to do a ritual.
Shut up. Shut up.
First you do a jump kick, then you start to cry, you embrace somebody, and then you take their energy and you become monkey trouble.
No,
that's how it happens.
I don't know why. It's the worst.
There we go.
So, we talked earlier about Nile. How do we feel about Nile coming out of this chapter? Because Nile was huge in this chapter.
We already talked about this, didn't we? How Nile had huge... Well, I think
we talked about the things that he... Like his ramifications, but in him specifically, his character, how he interacted with Erwin in this chapter. I thought it was interesting to see the conversation between Erwin and Nile talk about the family, and talk about Nile's relation to family as opposed to where he lives and where he is right now, and how that affected his decision-making.
Yeah, for sure, it did. Definitely... I feel like Nile had maybe an inferiority complex at first, which is why he was pretty aggressive in his attitude towards Erwin in the prison panel, because he was like talking down to him in a sense at first, and I felt like that was Nile's like getting back at Erwin for like, you could have had my wife, but now look at the situation we're in now.
How do you get back at somebody for almost having your wife?
Well, if you. Could you imagine?
How dare you not do the thing I didn't want you to do?
Okay.
I think he was being, like, more, Erwin, what the fuck are you doing?
Well, no, because,
why are you here?
But still, tell me you wouldn't be jealous. Hypothetical, let's say you and I were, like, best friends growing up, and then we go after the same girl, and I clearly can get her, but I'm just like, you know what? Nah, you can have her, and then you marry her. You tell me you wouldn't be a little bit jealous?
Why would I be mad at you? I got what I wanted.
Yeah, but it's because I basically gave you my sloppy seconds. So I was like, here you go. I could have had...
I guess that's a subjective point, but from my standpoint, I'm not mad at all. We're still cool.
Alright, I'll keep that in mind.
I don't understand.
Like, what are we gonna do with you?
Whatever.
Okay.
I mean,
nope.
I could still see the two of them going out to the bar, right? Those guys, I think, are still cool.
Oh yeah.
So, I think the more interaction we can get between the two of them would be for the best, because that's actually a pretty interesting relationship.
For sure, and that kind of ties into one of the questions tangentially. Like, it says, do you think the Uprising arc is over? Or is there another possible 5 chapters? Like how we talked about Katie, and how we talked about all of that situation going on. It's like...
How does that tie into Nile and Erwin at all?
Because
he said tangentially, so it's kind of close.
I didn't hear that.
Well, I said it. Because of, like, how we were talking previously about, like, if the revolution is successful or not. Like, could it continue? I feel like yes, just because we saw the Katie panel, and how, like, they said, Hanji, I think it was, who said, like, it seems to be stable at this point. But, you never know. You could be shooken up by some unforeseen event that happens. So
I'm not sure we got a full explanation from this chapter about why Nile decided to make the decision that he made, right? Why?
Because he knows his wife and family were in Karanis. It's not fucking Stohess. I don't know why Siyama wrote Stohess so many times, but it's Karanis. He said his family was in Karanis, and Karanis has now been breached.
Is it actually that, or is it because he realized what Erwin was doing and decided, you know what? Maybe I agree with him.
Maybe.
Maybe he's right. Maybe this is bullshit. I just like to imagine these big figurehead guys standing around, Pixis and Erwin and Zachley and Niall and some of these older guys standing around going, you know what, guys, this sucks. This is stupid. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
So, Zach, what do you think about Hanji in this chapter?
Fuck you.
What? What
She didn't do anything!
No, I wasn't being sarcastic. I was being
As
serious.
per usual.
No, I was being serious. She delivered the news that the
Congratulations, she's a glorified mailman.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Your favorite character did a cool thing, and you're not even hyped about it?
Well, she's done a shitload more than Annie has in the past 30-something chapters.
Yeah, well, Annie has a good excuse.
Hanji
She's
is
a coward.
great at delivering mail.
Ooh, I will fight you, Zach, if you want to go down that road, because that's a stupid thing you just said.
I won't fight you on that, but I'll fight you on something else.
One of the interesting things I noticed out of this chapter was that the military guy, the noble guy who was parroting what Erwin was saying was his reasons for why the Circuit Core existed, he said something about Aaron and his story of being taken away, or they were trying to recover Aaron and his story, and I was wondering, what exactly all did Erwin tell them? Did he tell them everything that they know? Did he spill his guts to them?
Where are you talking?
There was that scene where where the noble guy was parroting. He said the things that Erwin was saying. He said, okay, you want the Survey Corps to be cleared because you think some random association of people killed the Reeves company. You were set up for blah, blah, blah. Right?
He probably did spill his beans. Spill the beans, because there's no reason not to at that point.
Is there no reason not to? Because
Well,
Erwin also said, unless you guys have some sort of secret plan for something.
He was definitely trying to bait for that information, because I'm sure with the Pixis Erwin conversation that was not foreshadowed, that was shown to have happened previous to that counter argument. It's like, surely there was he's trying to see if they actually do have a counterplan. Like, he's trying to see their reaction, gauge their reaction.
Wouldn't he assume that they have a counter plan, though?
Maybe, yeah, but you always want to check. If you assume something, you don't just say, okay, well, but I assume it must be. Clearly he wanted to, well, not clearly, but in my mind, he definitely wanted to gauge.
Well, this is a all-or-nothing plan that they embarked on, where this could have backfired. And I guess that's also true. If it was an all-or-nothing plan, and he did spill his guts, he had nothing to lose, right?
Right.
Is that the argument, basically?
Yeah, essentially.
Well, the CMP already know what happened. There's no reason not to at least get his story down.
So did you guys notice in the Crunchyroll translation, Zach, I talked to you about this.
How they misspelled Sheena?
Yeah, that's where I was going.
That's the official translation.
Even if it is, this is exactly what I told you. Even if that is the official translation, that is still stupid, because that sounds horrible. That should read Sina. I don't...
But it would still be pronounced Sheena.
It's fine, but...
Maria, Rose, Sheena. That's how they're pronounced.
Am I weird for not liking that?
I don't like the spelling, but...
The spelling is off. I don't like it either.
It's just to get people knowing that that's how you pronounce it, because otherwise we've got the dub saying Walsina.
Well, I mean, I guess if you put it that way, where I have to choose between the spelling being literal for Sheena, versus the dub saying Sina, I have to side with Sheena, but I don't know with OCD, but I just really don't like that. How about that scene after the ruse was introduced, where someone, I don't know who it was, I think it was a random soldier, said that the interior squad was suppressed, and that they had no real complications with suppressing the interior squad after they outed the ruse. Does that strike anyone as a little odd that there was no fanfare, there was no big, trouble getting them all suppressed, quote unquote?
Here we go. Page 36, 35. Pixis says, even if we may be ignorant about the power of the Titans or how this world was created, we would still be better fit to rule than a bunch of men with no intent to keep humanity alive. And his assistant, the one that announced, well, Rose has been breached, comes up and whispers in Zachary's ear, we have suppressed the Interior Squad. They'd just been hit by Levi's squad, so a lot of the Interior was out of commission.
Is that what Levi's objective was in the last chapter?
No.
Or this chapter?
He has no idea what everyone's up to, but it's just a happy little coincidence, I think.
That's what they said, yeah. I think Pixis said it's a coincidence that, like a happy coincidence that occurred.
Well, he said it then, but he was saying that in public. Did he actually mean that? Or was that after the time before he cared?
Or where was that said?
What, that he said it was a coincidence?
Yeah.
I don't know. Scotty said that.
Because I'm pretty sure they said that, like, in the text, didn't they?
I don't think so.
Well, I just wanted to call it to attention as being weird that the Interior Squad just kind of went down, just kind of flat.
Well, you've got the entire military. I mean, look at that fucking army Zachary brought in with him.
Mm.
And I think it's pretty simple, therefore, just to suppress the 3 or 4 Interior Squad members they had in the capital.
Yeah, I guess when they play it up in the anime, that'll appear as a much cooler thing. Like, he'll walk in real cool-like, and they'll say that little thing off, like, real quiet-like, and it'll sound cool. It'll give Zachary a good introduction. I guess that's what that's for. For some reason that stuck out to me.
Make what quiet? Then allow me to join you?
No, him saying that the Interior Squad was suppressed.
Well, that's what it is. It's a side note from the assistant to Zachary while Pixis is making his speech.
Mm.
It's like, we have suppressed the Interior Squad. Good. We would still be better fit to rule than a bunch of men with no intent to keep humanity alive.
Mm.
It's more of just something happening in the background.
Interesting. Alright, so next topic. Okay, so after Chapter 61, there are still a lot of unanswered questions, right? One of the big things that's still out there right now is Kenny and his squad, because we didn't really touch him at all in this chapter. And there was a line in this chapter, I think, where someone said that his squad, I think it was Levi, who said that Levi and his squad could still derail their plans if he did whatever he was going to do correctly.
Yeah, it was Levi. I'm sorry, those 3 you entrusted me with, I let them die. Well, at least you neutralized those gun-toting bastards, right? No, not all of them. The leader and his team are somewhere else with Eren and Historia. If we don't find them soon, this revolution will be derailed.
Now, when he says derailed, I assume that he means that they might lose Eren or Historia, or Rod's plan will be successful. I don't assume that he means we can actually stop the revolution somehow. At this point, I think he's kind of out of that loop. I really don't think he can stop the takeover for like now.
Yeah.
So it's okay to assume that what he means by derailing is either Rod being successful or Eren or Historia dying.
I mean, I guess I could say that the point of the revolution was to secure the resources and the ability for the Survey Corps to get to Shiganshina. And if Eren is lost, then they can't do that, so the whole revolution was meaningless. Maybe that's what he was saying, but I'm not quite sure.
I guess it's not totally clear. Maybe that was one of those things where they were like, well, let's leave some sort of intrigue for a future chapter development. Right.
Or maybe it's just something that was lost in translation.
Okay. Next point. Hanji, towards the end of the chapter, talked about how the next thing that they were doing was they were going to go to this location where they think Eren and Historia are. She got some sort of note, right?
About that. I just might know where Eren and Historia are. I'm not absolutely certain, but I think our only choice is to take our chances with this. We'll end this battle there.
Where? There. What did you...
There. There, as in at the location of Eren and Historia.
Oh, I thought you were trying to specify the location.
Yeah,
no, I was reading the chapter.
Okay.
I have no idea where it could... I mean, I don't think that the location is too important besides, like, them getting there, but I don't think the actual location...
And this fucking sacrificial altar Eren's on.
yeah, but I don't think it's, like, the sacred altar that,
Man,
I feel like it's just, like, some location.
That last panel was so metal with him being chained up. And that setting of, like, it was metal.
Someone made a post today about how Eren's not wearing his key.
Yes, that's actually a very nice catch. Sort of like the king and his bottle thing with the weird words on it that I don't know if anyone still remembers that.
Yeah, the herring language.
Yeah, the herring language. Thank you. Good term. Little things like that. I'm glad people are noticing because I'm not noticing this shit.
Yeah.
I'm glad other people are. That is a pretty important detail. So that opens up a whole new line of thought if we think about Rod having taken the key, right?
And remember when the council was like, we're about to have the final piece of the puzzle, whatever they said, and they were like, yeah, and then we just stop a couple of days, then we'll be able to control this. Remember when they were talking about that in this chapter?
Yeah, they would say, let's just hold out for a little bit and we'll be fine.
What if what they got was the key, and whatever's in the basement was what they were referring to? It's a huge long shot, and I know it's not true, but it's interesting to think about it.
Well, would they be able to reach Shiganshina from Sina within a few days?
Probably not, but...
Because if they're going on horseback, or if they have to go... I don't know. A few days? I assumed that the territory of humanity was big enough that it would take like a week. You know?
It's about 100 kilometers between each wall.
You can easily reach that in a day.
Can you?
Yeah, especially on horses.
Not great.
Oh, yeah.
The relative distance and horseback. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, if I can reach
No, they got from Sheena to Rose in a day.
Did they?
And during the whole monkey triple shit.
Yeah, okay, I remember.
So, they can do it again.
So I guess that is plausible.
And I mean, Sheena to Rose is a lot larger than Rose to Maria.
Right. Because they wouldn't have to worry about having to transport their horses over the walls, they could just open the gates.
Oh, no, I'm just talking about in terms of distance.
Right. So
Maria to Rose is like 100, and I think Rose to Sheena is 150, and then from Sheena to the center it's 250.
So it should still be pretty plausible. It's interesting.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, it could not at all be related to that. It could just be related to whatever the hell Rod's doing. Because there's a implied connection from somewhere in the past that the Wall-Cult and Rod were working together, right?
Right.
So if Rod he's doing weird things that we don't know about, and it's super confusing to the plot, because we always have to go back and consider whatever the fuck he's doing.
Well, on the bright side, we're getting a Kenny chapter, so...
Yeah, you call it a bright side. I don't call that a bright side.
Yeah, I like Kenny.
I like him as a character, but I'd rather that plot development section get resolved quickly.
I'm
just fine.
I'm on board with that. I don't like him, though. The reason I brought up the Hanji question in the first place was I was going to ask where she got that information. How did she find out?
On my first read, I thought that thing Kenny was holding was the letter.
Yeah?
But I saw people saying it's a knife, and I guess, yeah, it looks like a knife, so...
No, I was wondering, Hanji said she had an idea of where Eren and Historia might be, right?
You think Kenny could have told her?
It came from a note, but where did she get the information, is what I'm asking.
It could be bait. It could be, like, someone who wanted them to go to a certain location.
Like Kenny?
Kind of. Yeah, like I said previous, but it all depends where the information came from, which at this point is up in the air, so...
It's so weird that she would, they would just randomly say, oh, Hanji knows where they are now, because reasons.
Well, because plot development, because Ex Machina.
Because, it's still essentially because reasons. What do we think about Historia's position? Historia is in a weird place, because she's, obviously she's only in that one panel, but she's nowhere near the same circumstance, for whatever reason, that Eren is in, because she got a wardrobe change. She's, I don't want to say taller, but she looks different somehow.
Older? Age modification?
You're joking about that, are you?
Yeah, I'm just joking.
Okay, I didn't know if you were actually serious about that. I was like, oh,
I think it's just they put a little makeup on and gave her some nice clothes.
But why? What purpose would there be for that?
Because he loves his daughter and he wants to treat her like the best girl.
So we're assuming Rod is a creepy weird guy now?
For sure.
We're assuming? I mean, we've kind of known this.
Have we?
Look at that smile!
Yeah, we've seen some weird smiles on the show before that haven't been totally creepy.
Yeah, by that standard, Erwin is certifiably insane. By creepy smile standard.
Yeah, kind of is.
He kind of is.
Kind of.
I don't think
No
Rod's
argument
that
there.
far. I don't think Rod's like that weird, creepy. The only thing that really I can think of is him trying to, well, not even trying to convince, but his that time he told his story of whatever to try and make himself not seem like the bad guy. You know, that one scene.
Astoria, I'm so sorry for everything. Hug.
Yeah, that. That I didn't think was him being creepy. That I thought was just him trying to convince her not
controlling.
to punch him in the face. Because she totally could have done that, right?
Yeah, I mean, she could have, but, I mean, that goes back to
Well, it
how
evidently...
much intelligence do you want to give her? Because her being of at least average intelligence, she would know not to punch Rod Royce, who's like the...
I was going to ask why you went there, but now I see why you went there. It's okay.
Yeah, because, like, this is supposedly the strings behind the royal family.
Mm.
So it's like, you're not gonna punch this man in the face. When Candy's eyeing you in the background, sharpening his knife,
Yeah.
like, hey, what are you about to do? Like,
Well,
clearly,
actually, he was unboxing Aaron at the scene we're talking about.
you know what I mean. Calm down.
Actually,
Yo, Aaron. Been a while.
I guess. Well, I was going to ask if Kenny would have an issue with killing Astoria if I told her to, but that's a stupid question.
Of course he
Smart
would.
question is,
He wanted to kill her.
but is there a situation... Couldn't Astoria have gotten away with some stuff because Rod wouldn't have wanted to kill her?
Yeah, but what is she gonna do?
But what is he going to do? He
Kick
can't
him in the
kill
dick.
her.
No, but okay, but why would he want to kill her? Like, what actions could she possibly take against him that would want him to kill her?
Well, she'd have to be physically restrained, but beyond that, not much.
Yeah, I mean, and she's not gonna... Her little Astoria is not gonna hurt Lord Caney. That's, like, not gonna happen.
Well, you could say the same about little Levi's not going to hit large Astoria.
You say little Astoria, she's not Krista. That's like saying that's sort of the characterization of her that we got with Krista. Astoria is not Krista anymore.
Mentality-wise, you're right, but physically-wise, they're the same.
I don't think that her physically being diminutive versus Rod would discourage her, because that's not who she is anymore. You know?
No, I'm not saying she wouldn't. I'm just saying to no avail it wouldn't do anything.
Okay.
Like, Katie's not going to feel threatened, like, I have to defend myself when she's attacking.
Okay, I'll buy that. That's fine.
That actually pertains to... I know you didn't want to get into questions, but one of the questions was, like, do you think that she's a willing participant at this point? And I don't think she is. I don't think she's going... And even if she is, then this goes back to her intelligence and what you
I'm looking at her body language here.
She might...
Her saying, I'm nervous as fuck with it. What do I do?
Yeah, it's hard to read.
Holding her arms and stuff.
It's hard to read with one panel someone's entire, like, thought process, but I agree with you. And also, she might be playing along because she knows the circumstances doesn't really allow her to, practice free will, so...
I would think her playing along only works if Rod actually is a creepy weirdo who's not totally all there.
I think he may be a creepy weirdo.
Yeah. Alright, well, for right now, let's put that question away. And let's move into our main event, basically.
Yes!
Our main attraction for this podcast. So I was actually looking forward to this for a while now. He's very enthusiastic about this next bit. I've had a couple of people on the subreddit, I think 2 or 3, maybe 4 multiple people, have addressed this to me where they said, hey, your thing about your hatred for the Mind Wipe, that whole thing about how the Mind Wipe thing is stupid has come back to bite you in the ass because it's confirmed now. It's a real thing now. This is our time to address that. Because Pixis' statement, he made one statement, it was a loaded statement, where he addressed this, and it's pretty well sparked.
Because this is going to be rich.
Now we're going to talk about our updated theories on the Mind Wipe. I'm going to be taking the stance of the Mind Wipes are still stupid, and the Mind Wipes are still bullshit, and they're still not a thing. They're still not confirmed. It's still a theory.
I'm in your corner with
But Zach, on the other hand, is taking the opposite stance to that, and he is saying that not only is it a thing, but it was always a thing. Basically.
I wouldn't say it's always a thing. It's always been a thing since it was introduced and already confirmed to be a thing.
So, Zach...
Which you just love denying.
It's not that I love denying it. It's because it's not true. It's not a thing. It's not confirmed.
Careful, Stiller. How heavily were you downvoted last time you said that?
Like I care. Well, do I care? I don't care. Okay, anyway. So, Zach, correct me if I'm wrong. The big scene is one scene of Pixis saying the thing about being able to, I'm not sure if you can take over the technology and the whatevers and handle.
Even if your revolution succeeds, we won't have any of their skills or knowledge. What's to say we'll be able to successfully take their place? In short, their apparent power to build a Titan wall and alter all of humanity's memory. This revolution runs the risk of losing all of that forever.
So to start off with,
it cannot be more fucking crystal clear, Stiller. God damn it.
It couldn't be more of an obvious still a theory, right?
When Isayama himself says it.
Did he actually say it?
Let me reiterate.
Don't reiterate a damn thing. If Isayama actually said it, link it to me.
Alright, here we go.
Going to go check his link, and his link is to Crunchyroll. That's bullshit. That's not him actually outright saying that the mind-wide theory is a thing.
Yeah. I don't
You're
think
referencing the chapter. You're not referencing the author.
The chapter is written by the author.
Oh my god, Zach, are you serious?
I'm not saying that this is Isayama saying it out of character, but he is saying it in his chapter.
That's what you made it sound like 100 times over.
Oh,
you kept references. Yeah.
So yeah, that does not confirm that. Because Isayama didn't said it, Pixis said it. And on top of that, the big argument I have against this is that Pixis said this as an unclear objective. Pixis said, even if, he posed this as a hypothetical, if we get into this situation, this thing I think they can do, maybe they can do, we would have to figure out how to also do if this is even a thing. Note, in the chapter, the word specifically, apparent. He said, apparent, their apparent ability to do this. Not, they can do this, I know they can do this, I've seen them do this.
And the word alter is for sure up to interpretation. Because mind wipe is one phrase, then alter is an entirely different animal. Because I can alter someone's memory by, inferring or implying that history was actually one way, or by censoring information from people, or just flat out telling people when they're, children, or telling the children of these people, oh, this is how the history actually was. That's how you can alter history, right?
History is written by the winner.
I was about to quote that, thank you. So, exactly. So therefore, the winners in this situation are the military police, CMP specific. So, because of that, Pixis could just be referring to their authoritative tactics and how they have that power because they have the infrastructure in order to implement this alteration of history. Whereas he's hesitant to think that the Scouting Legion and the Garrison will be able to systematically alter the memory of people, which I don't even think he wants to happen, but he realizes this is a tool that is useful, and he's questioning whether they could do it if they took over.
He doesn't want it to happen, but he's saying this is a resource that they have that we might need.
Also,
yeah, exactly.
For some reason, it's almost appearing like he's trying to confuse us with this, because the terminology is said in such a way that it's like it's supposed to confuse us about whether it's a thing or not. And it's smart to do that, I suppose, because it divides us pretty well and confuses us about what might be coming in the future, but at the same time, it makes this super important plot point totally unclear.
1 second.
Now, Scott, I think you agreed with me in the past that we saw this theory as, okay, the military police are using their authoritative position to, as we said, write the history as they want it because they have the power to do that. We saw it as a suppression tactic, correct?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So, in this chapter, another quote from one of the nobles this time said, the people only obey the king, right? So I think this is a statement that could have worked in the mind wipe theory's favor, in saying that the people were mind wiped or had their memories altered in a way so that they try and not oppose the king. But this falls apart, obviously, because we have a revolution on our hands. Right?
Right, exactly.
And they said we no longer... You could further this by saying, another quote they had from the chapter was, we no longer need to consider the thoughts of the people. You could argue, alright, well, they disabled their mind wipe shenanigans, whatever, and allowed this revolution to happen because they're not worried about it. But one reason I think that it doesn't work is because the big theme they pushed at the end of this chapter, with Hanji delivering the news, was to say, this revolution happened because individual people chose to fight against this. Individual people said, this isn't right, I'm going to stand against this. So that plays perfectly with the suppression theme, because you could make the same argument for the suppression theory. We're going to say, we don't believe this history anymore, not because you forced it into our brains with some magic bullshit, but because we choose to write our own history. We choose to actually investigate what's real. We can make this theme work for both of these explanations.
Still, then how do you explain Geographia saying, forget me, and then Historia forgets her?
I guess I don't really have to.
Here, can I just...
You do need to, because your argument is mind wipes are just a way of saying whoever is victorious wins. But that's not what we've seen with Geographia.
Because Geographia and Historia's thing is in such a different scenario, it does make it more confusing. But I feel like Historia kind of went along with that. Like, she wasn't had her memories altered to believe that. She did that for some reason that I really can't explain.
That's bullshit.
But
she looks in bewilderment and says, "Who was that person?"
Right?
That's not like I'm saying, "Hey, this never happened," and you say, "What never happened?" That's not the same thing.
Even if I succeed that point, my former point is still stronger. Like, just because I can't explain this particular point because we don't have enough information does not automatically mean that the mind wipe theory is confirmed to true. It just means that
no, it doesn't.
It's not clear.
But that, in combination with Isayama directly saying, through Pixis...
You keep saying directly. Isayama did not put in a note that said, hey, the mind wipe theory is a thing.
That's why I said through Pixis, okay?
Through Pixis is not a thing. That's a character. A character is saying a thing that a character thinks, not what the author thinks.
Well, let me just take it in another step, in another direction, which is, if, let's say, the mind wipe theory is accurate, and it does exist, and let's say Pixis was right, and he said their apparent ability to alter the entire wall's memory, if that was actually the case, then why would they even care, the military police, about public opinion? Because the second that the Skyline Legion wins over the hearts and minds of the people, they'd be like, alright then, snap my fingers, everyone forget what they just said, don't listen to the papers got it all wrong, and, we're awesome, they're not.
I'm sure it's not as easy to do as just snapping their fingers when it's with a large group of people.
The idea, I think, is, why was there ever a conflict of this scale if mind wipes were ever a possibility? Right, Scotty?
I'm sorry, I was distracted for a second. Say that one more time.
I said, I think the point of what you were getting at was, why is there a conflict of this scale if mind wipes are a possibility?
Because, even if it wasn't like a super easy transition to take over someone's mind, or like the country's mind, or whatever, if you could call it a country, but you know what I mean. Why would they be trying to, as we saw in earlier chapters, the military police were making an active effort to influence the paper, and it seems like this wasn't their first rodeo with it. So that means they were on a consistent basis trying to alter the state of minds of the people through media. And if they just, all they needed to do was activate this power, then it wouldn't be necessary for them to do so.
So, as we've kind of already hinted at, it's still kind of unclear because we don't have all the information about how this system would even work, hence why this is the theory versus a confirmed theory. We need more information to say whether one of these things is true or the other is true. Because, like Zach brought up, the Historia thing is super confusing. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But at the same time, the military police, with all the struggles they've had with the Survey Corps and all the struggles they've had with the public and trying to keep people down, basically suppressed, if they have the ability to wipe people's memories, that shouldn't be an issue, right?
Right.
There's not enough on the theory side to say that this is a thing.
Right, I agree.
So what I would say to diffuse this is to say, after introducing this new argument based off of what we saw in the last chapter, I could move into my older arguments, but my older arguments don't hold up as well as the newer material, and we've sort of hashed out the differences between what I interpreted and what you interpreted. So I think it's fairly obvious that me and Zach agree to disagree here, and we will continue to do so until this is resolved conclusively one way or another. And we can move on from there, because, Zach, I'm not sure if you had any other arguments to present. And like I said, I don't want to go into old arguments if I don't have to. Scott, you're kind of in the middle. I think you're probably fine with moving on, too.
Oh yeah, I'm fine with moving on. I think we covered it fully.
Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start taking your guys' questions and answering them as it relates to Chapter 61. And this is the first month we're actually taking these questions from a Google Doc form. Okay, so first question. These are introduced by user, and they all go like sequentially. So when one person submits like 5 questions, the first couple questions we'll go through are all submitted by the same person, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question. Do you believe that Historia has willingly joined Rice and Kinney? Judging from the short snippets we've seen of them, something seems off. What do you think has happened? So specifically, towards the end of this chapter, where we see her out and talking to Rod Rice, combined with what we saw a couple chapters ago with Historia being told by Rod Rice, whatever he said, I don't even remember.
Historia, I am your father.
Something like that. I'm sure that's exactly what it was. But what do you think happened here?
I honestly don't think that she willingly joined Rice and Kenny. I think that, if anything, she may just be playing along because she realizes she's not in any position to fight back as of now. And, she sees Aaron chained up in the background. She's not thinking to herself, I can make a quick escape and get us both out of here. That's not really sensible at this moment. So if I were her, or what I think she would do in that situation is play along until she eventually found a way to get them both out. So I think that's what she's doing right now.
It's really not clear, because she could be playing a couple of different scenarios, but I think that playing along with it is probably the most obvious and probably the safest route she could be going. But it would be interesting to see her do a heel turn here, because that'd be unexpected, to say the least.
I think based on her body language and the expression on her face, she is really not going along with anything here. I think she looks nervous. She looks, nervous, I guess. There's not really much else to say. She's holding herself far away from Rod, so just based on my expert opinion, I think that this is nothing willing in the slightest, no. Although she does appear to have allowed him to change her clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, next question. What exactly do you think the nobles were talking about when they were discussing amongst themselves after the news of the breach of Walt Rose arrived? The general consensus seemed to be that they were discussing taking Aaron's power. What do you think of this?
I think this lines up pretty well. Personally, I mean, it could be something completely out of the blue, and that was like a red herring. Aaron chained up at the end of the chapter to throw us off of the scent. But I really doubt that, because they said like a couple days, and we saw Eren chained up, so clearly Candy and Rice are at least waiting for something. Maybe it's something that takes time, like procedure or something. So because of that, it lines up with the timeline of what the nobles were talking about. So I would say that that's probably the most likely situation. And at this point, I don't see what else we could speculate on. So,
well, it's so weird to hear, or to read at least, comments referring to the time Isayama said that we were going to start getting more answers. We were going to start sort of rolling downhill with some of the mysteries we have, and we get shit like this in this chapter where we get these vague statements and vague, hush-hush movements going on. We can't do anything with this, really, because I was thinking, like, oh, well, it's a thing they need. Well, what if they want to go to Eren's basement? I don't know. That's a thing that could take a few days to get.
In other animes and manga, it's like when you theorize about like what could potentially happen in the future, it's based on information you've been given that helps with unsolved mysteries that have been presented in the past. But in Attack on Titan, recently at least in the manga, it seems that instead of getting information to help us solve mysteries and theorize, we're given more questions to just make us wonder more. And there's no more information given to us in order to answer those previous questions or even, think about what they could possibly be. So that's a little annoying, but...
Always questions and never answers. It seems like... Maybe
that's Isayama's MO.
Maybe we're interpreting it the wrong way. Maybe the answers are actually supposed to come in the form of questions.
That would be horrible. That's terrible.
That doesn't really make any sense, but I mean, that's what it looks like. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas we would speak on like a character's actions or a character's development or something like that, and we'd say, all right, well, this action might mean this or it might mean that. That's the sort of line of questioning I'm wondering if he's actually expecting us to be following when he gives us these questions. Because you can't consider that, like, that can't be plot development. You know what I mean?
Well,
that
yeah, but
at
least there is plot development, though, in the midst of more questions.
Right.
Because before we were just getting questions upon questions with, like, nothing really happening, just side stories. Now we're actually getting, potentially at the end of the government arc, and then... even though there were questions posed at the end of it, at least now there's some progression in that sense, so...
Yeah, I also wish we had an actual name for this arc, because it's been called so many different things. The Revolution arc, the Government arc, the Uprising arc, the Political arc, the No Titans arc, whatever you want to call it.
No Titans arc.
That's the consensus amongst the fan base.
That's the consensus among people who are upset with the recent chapters.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, Zach, what did you think about that question?
Yeah, I kind of agree with the consensus. I do think that they were talking about taking Eren's power, because, I mean, what else would they be talking about getting through illicit means, so...
Alright, next question. The coup seems to have gone off more or less as planned, but the Survey Corps definitely isn't out of the woods yet. Do you think something will happen that will change the situation against the Survey Corps? If so, what? So, for example, everything coming out of this chapter looks like it's coming up roses for the Survey Corps. What do we see on the horizon that might immediately turn against them or backfire on them that they're not thinking about right now?
I can think of one that's pretty obvious.
The obvious one I'm thinking is Kenny.
Yeah, I was going to say so. Because it was foreshadowed in the previous couple panels towards the end of that chapter, so...
We don't know where he is right now. And I think Levi, at the end of the chapter, sort of hinted that he could actually still throw a monkey wrench in their plans. But, as I brought up earlier in the podcast, I'm not sure how that's possible, considering the kind of success that they've had with this effort. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be difficult for them to take over, and it's going to be difficult for them to try and manage the new resources they have. But, more or less, what's Kenny really going to do? Except maybe help the nobles do the thing with Eren, whatever they're doing.
But, like, even still, Kenny could only hurt, like, maybe the scouting legion or whatever.
Is the worst thing he could do kill people?
Maybe, but, like, he could try to dethrone...
He could have a secret shifter.
No. Caney, actually, is the secret shifter. He's like an Autobot. No, but,
More like a Decepticon.
Oh,
Transformers!
it's on the moon. And then, no, but, like, even if he kills people in the Sky Legion, I mean, the revolution already happened, and, like, everyone's already in place for the government to, like, not be there anymore. Like, they're dethroned at this point. So there's no way he could just redeem them and, like, take out the entire army. Like, I don't see how that's possible, so yeah.
Zach, what did you think about Kenny's possibility?
Like I said, could have a secret shifter. He could have something even more extravagant than the I don't know what to call it, the MPC or the MP3DMG.
Zach is in charge now, right, of the government.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he is.
yeah, so because of that, like, you'd have to take him out and then somehow gain control of the military, which wouldn't happen. So I don't see how Caney can do anything at this point.
Well, I was just thinking, we don't know jack shit about Zachary.
That's true, but I don't...
There are a lot of background things that could be going on with him, but at the same time, that would be a kind of a weak turn to say, oh, this guy who helped you is actually the real big bad.
Well, we know he's quite pro-Scouting Legion. We know he was anti-government.
Scott mentioned that Kenny's the obvious threat here. Who else? What other possibilities do we have? We have RBY and Monkey Trouble. And I don't see Annie really playing that big of a role in potentially, like, reversing this coup, you know?
Oh, definitely not, no.
And RBY coming back would be odd, because why would they care? You know? What would they gain from such an act?
Well, maybe they really did do something they shouldn't have by removing the government, like losing the ability to wipe minds or something. And then RBY are like, shit, we need that. Come back, put that shit back where it was.
No, actually, now that I think about it, there may be a possibility for RBY, just based on the fact that the military police were trying to take the coordinate from Aaron, so maybe that process and having the coordinate in, like, a container, a vial, something that they can be transported around, maybe that would be cause enough for RBY to come in and try to take that. Just a thought, though.
I think what they were saying by extracting the coordinate is just moving it from Aaron to someone more pliable to the government. I don't think that...
Yeah, probably. But...
I like the idea and I like the concept, but I'm like, terrified that it's actually going to end up being like a Kingdom Hearts style fucking, oh, the coordinate is actually your, like, emotional stability or something, you know?
Horrible.
God, that would be the worst. As long as that doesn't happen, I think we're okay.
Yeah, so many things that I don't even... My greatest fear, going off on a tangent though, is that they don't ever explain, like, how specific powers are given or decided amongst Titans and Shifters. Because
I'm sure we'll get all that explained.
Yeah, we're talking about unanswered things, man. Everything is an unanswered thing in this shit.
Yeah, I hope that's answered, because if it's by, like, some biologically driven, like, predetermined notion, then I don't see how that could be transferred. But at the same time, if it can be transferred, that implies that it may have been given with, like, a serum or, like, a vial, like, something that could be transferable. And if that's the case, then, you know, it could be extracted and given to other people. So
it's all speculation at this point, and obviously, as we've mentioned, there's just too many damn mysteries to be able to figure a fucking thing out anywhere. So for right, I guess we just gotta leave it be, because there's not really nothing we can do with it right now. And like I said, trying to figure out who the potential threats could be at this point, totally up in the air. Because, I mean, Kenny's obvious, but the only other thing you could think is Monkey Trouble, RBY, or a heel turn from somebody. Historia, maybe. I don't know. I think we should
Even
go
Aaron.
on to the next... Yeah, why not? Let's make Aaron a villain. Alright, that'd be awesome.
That actually would.
See? Everybody would love that.
Yeah, it would be awesome if they incorporated that into Aaron's personality, but it would be such a misnomer for him to just somewhat just turn just out of nowhere, like a snap of
He's like
Well,
super evil.
say that this place that he's chained up, it's obviously an important altar of some kind. Say that this is the place where they alter people's memories. What if... Fuck off, Stiller. What if...
Number one, that wouldn't even make sense, because they said they would transfer or alter the minds of the masses. They wouldn't have to chain every single person up. That wouldn't make any sense.
Well, maybe there are many. Anyways, just bear with me for a second. What if this is actually preparation to alter Aaron's mind to put him completely under Rice's power, under his control?
That would be stupid.
No! No!
I wouldn't like that at all, because if the mind wipe theory is credible, I'm not saying it is, but if it were to be credible, it would have to be through a method that's better than, here, I'm going to tie you with chains to a podium and then do this long procedure that takes days, because that's not conducive to controlling the masses. That's
no one said it takes a long time.
It's not efficient, that's what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, because remember the nobles were talking about a couple days?
So we touched on that a little bit. I'm ready to move away from the mind wipe potential, totally.
I am too.
Like I was saying, though, Aaron wouldn't be totally super evil. He would just have a change in perspective where maybe he has some sort of realization that lines up with the shifters.
So like an anti-hero.
Yeah, kind of. I don't want to say he'd match up with the shifters' ideology now, but he would be closer to that perspective.
That could work, I guess.
Go so far as to say, let's say he breaks Annie out and tag teams with her as a new shifter tag team. That'd be awesome. That'd be crazy. I'd love it. Is Historia a Titan? I like that.
No.
Yeah, I don't think she's shown at all any inkling of being a Titan.
If she was a Titan, Ymir wouldn't have to protect her.
Sort of like the heel turn we mentioned earlier, maybe her working with Rod Rice, maybe she's been a shifter the whole time!
That would be the worst reveal.
I mean...
And she's been better
I'm all for new
than
shifters.
anyone else.
I'm all for new shifters, but this would be next level bullshit. No, Historia's not a Titan.
That'd be pretty crazy. No, I don't think so either. That seems outlandish. Is this the final chapter of the political arc or not?
I don't think it quite is. I think this next chapter is going to be the actual final chapter, and kind of maybe a transition at the very end.
Yeah.
Or maybe the chapter after this. But this next chapter, or the chapter after that, those are going to be the last ones.
Right.
Yeah. A transitional chapter to where...
Because we do have to round out the volume, don't we?
Yeah, I'm sure we do.
Where we move away.
There's no way this can be the last thing, because that would mean, like, the next chapter. Oh shit, fucking Yumiya showed up. You know, we have to, we have to round this out, and we have to. Like, a lot happened in the last chapter. We need to spend a couple chapters cooling down and letting some characters reflect on this. And
this next chapter is going to be the last chapter, unless we're going to go on with this for another volume. Because right now we have 3 chapters that aren't in volume form.
I'm going to say 2. I'm going to say 2 chapters until we move on to the next thing.
I agree with that. Yeah. I'll say 2.
I'll say 2 to wind this down and to start the transition.
The vast majority, I'm talking 12 out of 14 volumes, have been 4 chapters per. Volume 4 is 5 per, and Volume 2 is 5 per.
I would say we're going to get no less than 2 transitional chapters, barring an actual attack. So I think we're definitely going to wind it down. It's not going to happen. I don't see it.
It could.
It could. I don't see it, though. Unless the story is actually a Titan. Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Rice is
Monkey Trouble?
I don't know if he's Monkey Trouble.
No, that's Connie.
That's exact. You can't take Connie's Thunderphone.
Alright, so it's time to move on to the next question.
There's a couple here about if Annie's power level relative to the other shifters.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Want to go into that, Stiller?
Yeah, let's see that. Is Annie worst Kyojin fighting-wise? I don't see her being able to take out any shifter. The only one she has a chance against is Ymir. The one after that is Annie's power level compared to other shifters. I feel like Annie is a jack of all trades, master of none. She's fast, but not as fast as Ymir. She can control Titans to a certain extent, but it's nothing compared to the Beast Titan and Eren. She has armor, but it doesn't even cover her entire body like Reiner, and she is probably not as
hard, etc. Because of this, I feel like she would lose to most shifters out there. What do you guys think?
I like these two statements as a question back to back because these are very contrasting
I think it's
perspectives. I tend to agree with the second one, whose username was just listed as Dave. So, yes, Dave, I agree with you. I think you were correct, Dave.
You got a
Dave from Kentucky, come on down.
That's right. The interesting part of what he said was jack of all trades, because that is what I agree with more than anything. Because she's not she doesn't have the durability of Reiner. She doesn't have the stature or posture of Berthold. I don't know.
The stature of Berthold. Like, Berthold is by far, I think, the one that's least capable.
You took offense with stature? I took offense with posture. It's like, what, is Berthold hunched over and the others aren't or something?
Well, no, I just mean to say that Berthold has a lot of poise, normally. You know what I mean?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I think so.
The bigger they are, the harder they fall.
And Ymir obviously has a lot of speed, and he's not slow. Annie's pretty quick, too. She's faster than Reiner. Sure, it's faster than Berthold.
We don't know that she's faster than Reiner, actually.
She probably is. Because
I mean, yeah, I agree. She probably is, but I mean, we don't really have any shots of Reiner running all out except for when he breaks through the wall.
Yeah, but when we saw that, he had a long ways to run before he burst through those walls, and he was doing like a charged, like, tackle sort of thing, where you wouldn't call it a sprint, but you can't really see an Armor Titan like that sprint.
I think that when you talk about Titans pairing up against each other, each Titan has other Titans that would be good against.
They have gimmicks. They're all gimmicks.
Yeah, because, like, let's not forget that Eren, just with skill that Annie taught him, took down Reiner in a fight. So if we remember this, then I think that Annie, by the fact she already beat Eren and Eren beat Reiner, that means Annie can already beat Eren and Reiner. But not at the same time, but you know what I mean.
People are going to argue with that and say, but Eren beat Annie in Stohas.
Yeah, that was after he was 1 out of 3. So
1 out of 2.
And I raised that point. Not that I agree with it, but that's going to be the argument against it. Because in Stohas, she wasn't actually trying to fight him. She was trying to run away from him.
Not even that, but in that fight, she won that fight because she had him dead to rights on the ground. And if she wanted to keep kicking him and kill him, there was nothing that would stop her from doing so.
She bashed his face into the point where she could have reached his skull, but
I'm not sure. She needed to kidnap Eren, and this was her last opportunity. If she thought she could have kidnapped him there, she would have.
No, I'm not talking about kidnapping. I'm talking about killing. She could easily continue to kick him.
She could have, yes, but she didn't.
I don't see the distinction really as important.
And I honestly don't think she really could have, because sure, his face was a little bloody, but his arms and leg still worked.
But he clearly couldn't stop her from bashing his face in because she was doing it over and over again. Long enough time to have a flashback about an entire scene with her dad. But I don't think the distinction about killing or kidnapping is important at all. Because in the grand scheme of things in that scenario, it wasn't just Eren that she was fighting. She was trying to get away from whoever garrison was chasing her, whoever military police was chasing her, Hanji and her trap squad, all of those guys were chasing her. She had to get away from everybody. She could have taken Eren then, clearly, but I think she doubted whether or not she could actually get away, which is why she didn't take him, because she probably wanted to put her focus into just getting away.
Yeah.
And even in the I talked about this recently in a thread. I do oversell her power a little bit because I do think she's the strongest out of all the shifters. But even in the expedition, I wouldn't say she really went all out against Eren either, because it didn't take much to put him down. Like, she smoked him pretty good when they fought in the forest, considering that she had to fight practically the entire Survey Corps by herself before she fought Mikasa and Levi by herself.
Yeah, it goes back to, I think you're asking the wrong question if you ask which one's the worst or which one's the best, because...
Basically, it's just rank them.
Yeah,
everyone has their own specialty. Everyone's good at their own thing.
And they're like Pokemon in the sense, each of them are super effective.
Yeah, catch them all, Titan shifters!
Each of them are super effective.
Go, shifter ball!
Alright, I'm not gonna talk, goodbye.
Go ahead, Scott.
Each of them are super effective against others, and each of them are not so effective against others. They have weaknesses and strengths. Like, for example, remember when Reiner was talking about Ymir and Bertolt? No, Bertolt and Reiner were talking about how Ymir could take them down in the woods because of the advantage she had about being quick and about being nimble. So she could just like chip away at them and then defeat them that way.
Honestly, I wonder if Reiner isn't the worst out of all of them, because who does he have an advantage against?
Maybe.
He almost had Eren, except Eren remembered that he learned from his enemy, and Reiner's probably going to fucking murder Annie next time he sees her.
So he probably should. I would not be surprised if he's not happy about that. But
what the fuck, Annie? You taught him how to fight.
Taught him to fight well enough to beat me. But what we're saying here is that Eren, who didn't even use his coordinate ability against Reiner...
He didn't know he had the coordinate ability.
Yeah, like, that's what I mean. He straight up fought Reiner without any sort of special enhancements and took him down pretty good. Put him in that fucking vice grip or whatever he had, that special, like, dead man's hang lock or whatever the fuck that thing's called.
I think we can all agree.
He could do that to any Titan. He could probably even do that to Bert if he could reach around.
No, Bert's too big for that. There's no way.
I was about to say, though, I think Bert's the worst out of them all in terms of fighting.
You know what? Reiner might have an advantage on Bert because he might just be able to punch him in the ankle enough till he falls over.
There's
that whole theory that Bert can't even stand.
Because he had to hold on to the wall for support.
Because he had to hold on to the wall every time we've seen him, and the other time we've seen him, he was like literally attached to the wall. I mean, all Bert can really do is 50-meter body slam.
But that 50-meter body slam's pretty high.
It's like a...
Oh, yeah.
Like if you
50-meter body nuke.
He's basically Macho Man Randy Savage, because he's going around dropping elbows on people off the top rope. He's basically Macho Man Randy Savage.
I'd also say that Bert's the weakest, just because, you know, he can't really shift that often from what we know.
I'm not sure. I think I'm going to stick with Reiner, because I think Bertolt matches up pretty well against Reiner, and he sort of evens out against Ymir, because Ymir's super fast, yeah, but one good shot from Bertolt can probably just destroy her.
Squish.
Yeah.
Plus he has the whole steam thing. He might even be able to just dank it up enough that Ymir couldn't even get close.
Yeah. And in that regard, considering he's, 60 meters tall, how does any of them really get after him? You know?
Ymir climbs like a monkey.
Ymir can climb, but it's a high-risk, high-reward battle between those two. Because I'm
sure that we're going to see Bertolt one-on-one versus someone eventually. And I bet Eren will chop off the leg or something, because this is all assuming Bertolt's standing. He might just be lying down like when he fought Hanji.
If he does another 50-meter body drop or whatever it was, I can imagine Eren or somebody fucking throwing an uppercut in his face when he's
oh no
trying to body press on him.
Well, that means he'd have to be on top of the wall. I was thinking he could be down on the ground, or I suppose he could be on the wall again, but then he can't really 50-meter body slam someone that's at the same height as him.
Well, I'm thinking if he jumps off a wall or something to try and body press somebody, if you fucking uppercut him in the face, it'd be awesome. Who would want to see that?
He's referring to if you are at the bottom, and then as he's falling, you uppercut him.
Yeah.
I know this, but I'm saying he couldn't really do that if you're on the same level fighting.
No, he's not. He's 50 meters below.
Why would you be 50 meters below if you're fighting someone?
Because the Colossal Titan's 60 meters tall, so you're 50 meters below automatically. With these shifters, who are all at least 10 meters tall, right? Except for Ymir.
Yeah.
What is Ymir, like 5, 7?
Yeah, she's small.
It's okay, so we've all established our opinions, I think. I obviously think that Annie's the strongest. Who are your guys' strongest shifters?
I think I already answered.
Did you? You think Berthold?
No.
Hell no.
No.
No?
I said that it all depends. It's all dependent. I don't think anyone's the best. I think Berthold may be the worst. I think there could be an argument made that he's just flat out the worst. But in terms of who's better than anyone else, it's dependent upon who they're fighting.
I'd say that the overall best would have to be Aaron or Reiner.
Scott, that's a cop-out answer. If you're going to give me shit about cop-out answers, I have to give you shit about cop-out answers.
No, because it's true, though. We already know that Ymir has an advantage over Reiner and Berthold. That Reiner should... I mean, he technically has no advantage over anybody because Aaron can take him down, and that ostensibly means that Annie can take him down just by association. So I guess Reiner would probably be on the lowest list of who he could take out. But at the same time, we've seen him so resilient that we don't know if Reiner was trying his best, so he could potentially take out Aaron because we've seen him
Honestly, though, I don't think you can really build that much of a case for Reiner because
Reiner, if he sheds the plates on the back of his knees, he gets a hell of a lot more nimble, so we haven't seen him fight like that yet.
That's all fine and dandy, but when the reveal came out, Reiner got pissed, and he walked up to Aaron, and he said, let's do this shit, like he was ready to throw down. And they did throw down. I think that was a very substantial effort from Reiner, so I'm not sure I don't know if he could do much better than that. Because he was pissed, and he was ready to fight, like he didn't have any super serious drawbacks, he was just ready to go.
Except he wasn't trying to kill him, right?
He was trying to capture him, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe he
got put in
had
a
to help.
freaking ground headlock or something, and got...
Well, if he was really just trying to kill him, he just throws Aaron down and then just 50-meter body slams him, because Reiner is built like a freaking boulder. He just tucks his arms and legs in, and boom, cannonball, you're squished.
So maybe Reiner didn't go about it the right way. Maybe instead of just trying to submiss him, he should have just shit out of him.
When you're trying to capture someone and not kill them, that is a hell of a lot different from an actual all-out fighting.
Okay, I can see that. Maybe there is a case to be made for him. I'm going to hold to him being the weakest right now, though, until he actually does something.
So who do you think is the weakest, Stiller?
Reiner. I think it's Reiner.
Do you think he's the weakest?
I do.
You just said you were held out.
I didn't even think you could make an argument for him. But
no, that's exactly. So you're trying to make me give an answer for non-argumentative purposes.
But you're giving a cop-out answer by not picking anyone.
So who do you want me to say? Okay.
I want you to pick someone. I don't care what you say.
All right. I'd say Aaron if he can hone his Titan controlling abilities.
Is the worst?
What the hell? No, it's the best.
It's the best. Okay.
Yeah, I already said the worst is Bertol. I don't know why I keep forgetting this.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, you did say that. Okay, so Aaron best, Berthold worst for you. Scott, who was your best? Or Zach, who was your best? Because you said Berthold worst also.
I said Reiner or Aaron.
Reiner or Aaron. 2 for Aaron. How crazy is that?
Swaggity swagger, beers in the Jaeger.
Yeah.
Actually, I changed my answer. I'm going to say Annie. Because Annie's...
Scott, that is a cop-out.
Yes.
Bullshit. Out of the call.
No, it's not. That is not
Why am I not
a
hosting
cop-out.
this? Why can I not kick you? Shit. Get out.
No,
She always wins against him.
Except
the one time she didn't in the 2 fights she had.
It's because she gave up. She was like, I'm done.
We just talked about this.
I know. How do you forget this, Zach?
But I also forgot things in the last couple.
Yeah, so... You know what?
I'm cutting him a little bit slack, but I think we've addressed it pretty well.
I didn't
Shut
forget
up your
anything,
vagina,
so I'm going to cut no slack.
Good job turning, Scott. You made the right decision.
I mean, it's more... I only turned because I was forced to give an answer I didn't want to give.
Well, here's the thing. If you just stayed with Aaron, my next point was going to be, look at these two siding with the main character who's obviously going to get the main beneficial effects.
You know what? I changed my answer. I think Mikasa is the best Titan ship. She's not even. She's not even a Titan, yet she's the best Titan shifter.
Yeah. Okay. I hate that answer, but
I hate you.
I hate that answer, but you know what? It's good. I like it. It's good. I guess that's about it. Except, do we want to talk about Ymir at all? Because I don't think she really got a fair treatment there.
And she's good against a lot of them. the tall ones, the armored ones.
I think she would destroy Reiner and Berthold. I think she'd have a much harder time against Annie and Aaron.
As was foreshadowed previously between their conversation.
Isn't that interesting? Reiner and Berthold being, like, separated with Ymir right now, considering she could probably take both of them.
And it's also weird because she blatantly threatened them. Like, was just like, I'm gonna kill you if you don't go back for Astoria.
That's true, too. Or at least she said that she was going to sabotage them.
And then she said I could pretty much take you out.
Yeah.
And the fact that if she doesn't go back with them, they can't go back at all, or they'll probably die or something.
So she might be a little, I don't know if she's underrated or just underutilized.
I don't think she's underrated, because remember when she was at Fort Utgard, and they were like, oh wait, am I thinking of something else?
No, that's right. Castle Utgard, that was Ymir's, that was basically Ymir's big deal.
And she wasn't doing very well against the hordes of Titans. Like, to a point she was, but then she was like, I can't do it anymore.
It's just because of her size, you know what I mean?
Exactly, so that's a down.
It's easy for her to get outnumbered, but in a one-on-one fight against somebody like Reiner, she'd have a much easier time because she's one target to go after, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think anyone against 20 Titans would have a harder time, you know what I mean?
Except just Reiner.
And except Annie.
You don't think Annie?
No, I think Annie would be able to, just because we've seen her be able
Scott,
to...
it's Stiller. He's going to argue for Annie no matter what. Don't even bother.
This is true, but my argument for that's going to be that we've seen her use her ability to harden skin or whatever to knock off Aaron's limbs before. So I think she could really be cutting... No, she could be kicking off shins and stuff left and right. I don't think she'd have an issue.
Right. I just wonder if there's a limit to how much you can use that ability before it takes its toll.
Considering the shit that she went through in the expedition in Stohas, we have not reached her endurance point yet. We have not seen that.
Right, because she hasn't versed hordes of Titans yet.
She went through hordes of Survey Corps people and much less tedious. Well, you say that, but she had to fight Mikasa, and she had to fight Mikasa twice, I believe, and Levi at least once.
And that took its toll, didn't it?
It did. Just
exactly.
Because, cumulative effects.
And she beat Mikasa. Why am I arguing for Annie? Shit. Never mind, I said nothing.
Yeah! Mission accomplished. I'm ready to move on now.
Shut up.
I got everything I wanted out of that. Next question is, don't the people already know that the monarchy doesn't care about them? I mean, 5 years ago they sacrificed 1/5 of the population for food, so isn't it obvious?
Not everyone knows that it was just a blatant kill the people so we can have food operation. The official explanation was that it was to reclaim Walmara, and that, oh no, it somehow accidentally failed.
I also think, like, didn't it say that a lot of them were just willing to sacrifice themselves? Because it was kind of like an in-between segment where people knew that it was kind of a suicide mission, but then they also knew that it needed to happen, so they were like, oh, might as well just go out with a bang. Like, I'm pretty sure that was implied at one point.
As far as
they could see it as more of like the loss of the few for the good of the great, or for the gain of the many, or something like that.
Yeah, we get it, yeah.
Greater good, basically.
And I agree with that.
I feel like the people are just easily manipulated, let's say.
Their minds are, too.
Yeah, you were welcome.
They're pretty fickle. Like, they tend to believe the things that they hear. They're like, we talk about them as a mass. We talk about them as a populace. And that's how this theme works, where we say, all right, well, this large group of people, they'll believe anything you put in front of them. You know, the newspaper probably for years lied about the things that was actually going on just to make the MPs look good, right? So I think it's possible that there were a lot of different cover-up operations, and there was a lot of manipulation going on that could have prevented the public from knowing the things that were really going on. Because the thing with Pixis outlining the culling, I don't even think was obvious to the people until he announced it, right?
Even then, he didn't really announce it to the people, just to the military.
The military, right. So the public wasn't even really there when he sort of put that out in the open.
The public was as far away as possible.
So it's pretty possible, I think, that the public was blind to a lot of what was going on. Is that it for that question?
Pretty much.
Yeah? Okay. Alright. Were you pleased by the success of the coup, or would you have preferred the plot to unfold in a different way? So, I think the latter half of that is more important, where we say, should this plot have gone in a different direction?
Should have gone towards the Titans.
I think if you asked the mass majority of fan base, they probably would have gone that way.
Is he asking about how the government arc ended, or how the government arc was just in existence?
Well, the way it reads, were you pleased by the success of the coup? Which seems to indicate, is that what you wanted to happen, or did you want it to go a different direction?
I think that's the only direction, really, that it could have possibly gone. Because if the coup just was a failure, then the remaining members of the Scouting Legion, which are very numbered at this point, would just be outlaws, and that would be it. Just goodbye. They'd be hunted down, and there'd be nowhere to go from there.
I mean, you could have made a story out of that, but I'm not sure if you wanted to go. I don't think that would have been a good route to go.
At that point, it just would have been a war of attrition against the Cervic.
Right.
Every person they lose is one less to fight the Titans.
Alternatively, we could look at this question and say, okay, what were the key moments that happened during this arc that could have gone differently? Like, for example, let's say the scene where Armin had to shoot the girl who was going to kill Jean. What if Jean had actually died? Would that have been a good route for the plot to go?
I think it would have given quite a bit of character development to the other group guys in the Squad Levi.
So another scene we might look at is the scene with Levi. I don't want to say harassing, but scolding Historia.
Assaulting?
Yeah, assaulting that too, I guess. Did he actually hit her in that scene? I don't remember.
No, I think so.
Didn't he grab her very forcefully?
Yeah, I guess he didn't. Yeah, he didn't hit her, I guess. But
what chapter was that?
50.
That's it. I heard it.
Yeah.
That's one of those.
That one.
Check 50. Oh no, 57. You need to have a premium to see. Never mind.
Whatever chapter that was.
I'll just check
that
this out.
Scene could have gone in a different direction. What if Historia had actually stood up for herself? What if Historia had stood up to anyone?
Well, then they wouldn't have needed to beat the shit out of her because she'd already be putting herself on the throne.
And is that a point we could have had a butterfly effect from?
Well, I mean, the thing is, Levi said, if you don't do what we want, I'll beat the shit out of you. So if she stands up for what she wants, he'll just beat the shit out of her until she does what he wants. So...
But I don't think the rest of the group would have just let Levi do that. You know what I mean? Somebody would have stopped him eventually. Because you can't go too far with that, obviously.
I think at this point we're just nitpicking. I feel like
it's hard to answer this question because
I think we did.
It's not specific enough to what we need to address. Like, if the plot had gone a different direction, as in, like, it not being as much of a success, maybe Erwin did die, maybe Levi died.
It was nowhere near 57. It was before Historia was kidnapped.
It's
52 is my guess.
Different possibilities make it hard to speculate on where we would have liked the plot to go on. So maybe we needed to look at it from a general perspective and say, overall, what should have happened in this arc? You know what I mean? How should it have been really resolved? Was the coup the right way to dissolve it? Where everything's happy, campy, fucking, hey, we won? Or should it have been a more somber, like, oh, we were successful, but we had a lot of losses, too?
Yeah, I don't think it was a happy-go-lucky ending or resolution, because they still lost a lot of people, and it was still a hard, line for them to walk, and trials, tribulations. It wasn't like, oh, hey, let's walk up and...
it was hard on the characters, but we didn't really lose anybody we cared about too much.
That we cared about, you're right, but...
Because who did we lose? We lost Nifa, who was introduced in this arc, for fuck's sake.
No, she's been around for a very long time.
Has she?
Mm-hmm. I think since...
she was given a name, I guess.
Yeah, it was. Actually, I noticed Goggles-kun in the fight against Annie when I was watching the dub the other day.
Goggles-kun is another one who died in this arc. And to his credit, I see some people on the subreddit who actually do care about him. A little bit, but as far as I'm concerned...
I don't think so.
That's a kitchen character.
No, for sure.
I think so.
He's cooking some spaghetti in there. But
Cooking spaghetti in hell.
wasn't it implied that, like, a whole bunch of them died that we just didn't get to see?
True, but all of those would be... I don't even know...
Where was that implied? What do you mean?
Those are, like, less kitchen characters because we didn't even see them.
Yeah. And Zach, it's like, where's everybody? Like, the Scouting Legion didn't consist of 10 people before this.
No, everyone else was arrested.
Right.
The main garrison of the Scouting Legion was the main garrison of the Scouting Legion. And everyone else was with Hanji's squad or with Levi's squad. And Hanji's squad was decimated, Levi's squad is Levi's squad, and that's it.
So was it assumed that they're still captive?
Yes, they're still in jail.
Oh,
well, they've been released by now, of course, but...
We did see that panel of a jail cell with a bunch of guys in it that we assumed were the Survey Corps that were captured.
That's kind of uncanny of the out of character of the military police to just keep them. Like, why don't they just kill them?
They probably planned to keep them so that they could execute them publicly. And they just weren't prepared to do that at once, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, they had to set that up. They could have done it like a mass execution, you know, like a, what do you call it, a lineup. What I was getting at was that, sure, it was hard on the characters, and sure, they had to change a little bit. Some people got some really good character development, but it could have been much worse. It could have been so much worse. And I really think the question is asking, should it have been worse? Should we have come out of this arc with a worse situation? Maybe Erwin should, like I said it, maybe Erwin should have died, maybe Levi should have died, maybe somebody should have died. Should that have happened, I think is the question.
No, we were beating this question to, like...
It's because we don't understand this question.
The last was beat to death more.
I think it's just because we don't understand this question.
No, I think it's because you read so much into this question.
I think it's a potentially good question that we just don't get.
I think it was a good question that was answered within 10 seconds of it being asked. And then you just continuously, but we could answer this question in 5 different ways. Here we go.
Oh,
it's like,
fucking guy, why not? People want to hear answers.
Because we don't have all night, Stiller.
Fine. Do you think Historia will eat Eren? And if not, what do you think is going to happen with Eren?
No, because Historia's not a Titan to begin with, so multiple things would
we
have...
still don't know how it works, Scott.
Exactly. Okay, Zach.
Hanji implied that our previous theory was now her theory.
Yes, but, I mean, we don't know the specifics. For one, there is that theory that what Grisha gave Eren was simply a serum to turn him into a Titan, and then Eren ate Geographia or he ate Grisha, and therefore he came back as a shifter. Therefore, it's not too far of a stretch to imagine that Rice has this serum. He will turn Historia into a Titan, she'll eat Eren, and come back.
Yeah, but that's a stretch. That seems like way too much to happen with no provocation and such like a... I don't
provocation?
No, because like it's like out of nowhere we're going from, okay, we got Eren chained up, so now here's also a needle, and then we'll just turn to it and now eat him. It's like...
Think of it as a giant dinner table. It's not just chain.
It's like that scene from King Kong where they strap the girl up and offer her to King Kong, and he comes and takes her away.
Now I see it. All right. No, I mean, it's still just a little too... I don't think it would fit the pacing of what's going on right now.
Well, I was thinking, if we start questioning Hanji's hypotheses...
Well, this is just assuming he's going to have Historia eat him.
But we also have to take a step back and say, well, if we don't think she could be right here, do we also not think the Titans are actually humans? Is she wrong there, too? Because if she is, fucking everything we've come up with is practically for nothing.
I still think I missed the chapter where she said that.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Wow, I can't even guess where that was at.
And that was around the time where Connie's village was decimated, and then...
That's where that theory came from, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was pretty much confirmed. Because...
If it was, the implication that Hanji had about shifters needing to being eaten by mindless Titans is what creates shifters. That implication...
No. Yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about that the Titans were humans.
Well, I mean, saying that's a strong enough connection should imply that, alright, Hanji's pretty good with this stuff. Maybe she's probably right.
About everything? I don't know if getting
pretty
one
much
thing right makes everything right. I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, that's why that's why we're throwing this up in the air and saying, well, if we're not sure about this, maybe that shouldn't be totally right either.
No, but that has
we got
proof.
anywhere
That's
with
not.
this?
That's not a theory that she pulled out of her ass.
This shifting thing wasn't a theory she pulled out of her ass either.
It kind of was. Well, she had no basis for it. She didn't say it.
The basis she had for it was on Aaron. When Aaron wrote that thing that he remembered about Berthold and Ymir's conversation, and about the time he freaked out when they were training his shifting ability, and he wrote that message into the ground, Hanji put some connections together.
The message she wrote on the ground.
Aaron put some strings together too.
Yeah. What was the message on the ground? I forget what it was.
The message on the ground was, my father blank blank by me. I think she put some dots together and said, that's possibly what's going on here. Which is
Swiggity swigger, nom nom nom.
Which is the exact same thing she did with Connie's situation, where she looked at what happened to Connie's mom, she looked at what happened to his village and said, well, I guess this is how that worked.
Okay, but now we're making jumps that, although Aaron, it could be made to assume Aaron ate his father based on the information and evidence. But then
even though it was a mistranslation, it actually says my father blank blank to me, which I assume says my father did this to me.
Is that the Crunchyroll translation?
Yeah, that's what we had that whole big argument about over the...
Yeah, we probably talked about that in the podcast before, where the translations fucking confused us. And that, really doesn't help the situation either.
That makes me side against you, Stiller.
Well, you were against me anyway.
I was, but this is more so now.
But I'm not even really taking that much of a stance, as much as I'm just saying she's kind of back and forth here, where we're not totally convinced one way or another if she's usually right or usually wrong, so why should we believe her in either case? Because neither of these things seem to be totally, 100% confirmed.
It pretty much seemed 100% confirmed, if not as close as possible, with the Connie village, because literally, Connie was like, that looks like my mom, and then the Titan was on top of his house, and then the Titan, called out to Connie. So,
Well, Reiner didn't hear it, so it might have just been a hallucination, or it might have just been Reiner trying to divert Connie's attention. But there was also no way that the Titan could have gotten there.
Ymir was working on that too, trying to get Connie to not freak out about that. I really don't think we're mending this bridge here, Scotty, so I think we might as well move on. Because I'm not sure we're seeing each other's points very well on this.
I think we are. It's just your point. I just don't get your point because it's like.
Yeah, okay, it's like we're
all right, moving on.
Basically, did you feel sorry for Erwin at any point in this chapter, or would you agree with his assessment in chapter 51 that he still has plenty of debts to pay off in hell?
Why the hell would we feel sorry for him? He's alive.
I'm gonna butcher this name, but Estelindis, I hope you can feel what I'm about to say. We had this argument because you quoted Erwin specifically when we talked about we talked about Shades of Grey, and we talked about good guys and bad guys in this show. Erwin is practically in the same boat as Annie in this scenario, where yes, he also has bad qualities to him, and he also does have to try and make amends for the things that he's done. We've talked about this, so maybe we had this conversation after you asked this question, so you might not have put this question in if we'd have put this out yesterday. But coming from you, we definitely addressed this, I think.
No, but the Erwin, like Annie, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that at all.
Well, the argument we had was, the thread was talking about whether RBA were actually villains or...
Oh, that thread, the one that comes up every week?
The most recent version of it, let's say.
Well, Annie is definitely... RBA are definitely much more characterized as villains than...
I don't want to repeat the argument on the podcast, so let me just summarize how the argument went, okay?
TLDR, no.
Well, yeah, pretty much. But the argument I had for it was that, yes, they are terrible people. They would all admit to being terrible people, and they would all agree with Erwin that they're probably going to suffer in hell for what they've done, if they believe in that thing. But at the same time, there are also good qualities to them, where they've had the desire to do better things, to be better people. They've shown remorse. They want to be
as a cover for being terrible people.
They want to be better versions of themselves. It's not a cover, because they will openly acknowledge that they've done terrible things. if they were covering for that, then they wouldn't have any conflicting emotions about it at all.
Not necessarily, because am I a terrible person? Yes. Do I care? No. That's my motto. And who's to say Berthold and Annie don't live by the same thing? I know I can't talk about Reiner because he's got the whole multiple personality thing going on. So he's obviously conflicted, but
I think it becomes much more clear for me in my mind when I look at. I don't judge someone necessarily 100% whether they're good or bad based on solely their actions, but it's also their motives that drive a large part of my understanding of what makes a good and bad person. And when you look at RBA, all we've seen so far is they destroy humanity, they take down large chunks of the population, they have seemingly no regard for human life, and
Annie did save a small girl, didn't she, Star?
Wow, one small girl, and she yo-yoed a different one.
And she saved John. Hey, she saved John.
Okay, just 2 people versus, 10 million you killed. So, anyway, so then, that's a side point, though. So, we've seen that they haven't shown their motive besides capturing the coordinate, and that's a selfish motive that doesn't excuse you from killing large portions of the population. Whereas we've seen Erwin, and his motivation is to save humanity, and he realizes, right, I may be a dick and I may be going to hell because I sacrificed a lot of my men to accomplish this end, but I'm the most effective at getting shit done, and it's for the best for humanity.
You know what that argument is, Scott? That argument is the end justifies the means.
It is. I feel like that gives you a much more sound argument for being gray morally than being
exactly.
red.
This is what I'm getting at, is that there is no good and there is no bad. There are shades of gray.
No, okay. Erwin is a much lighter shade of gray than is RBA.
But they are still shades of gray.
Very close to black.
Shades are
very close to black.
There are probably a lot of shades of gray, but
somewhere between 49 and 60.
That is the idea behind this question, is that both Erwin, well, that's not what the question asked, but Erwin has done bad things, regardless of what his motives were.
But I feel like he has good I'll say it this way. I feel like Erwin has good intentions and good motives, and RBA have, at the very best, unclear motives, and at the worst, or in my opinion, the most logical, bad motives.
It's hard to articulate what that conversation actually played out to be, because it was an awesome conversation, super in detail. It's hard to replicate without being actually able to plan the statement ahead of time, but the shades of gray are the important aspect of it, where both sides have done things they can't take back. Both sides are trying to be better. Both sides are also done good things.
Wait, trying to be better? How is RBA trying to be better?
What do you mean, how are they trying to be better?
Saving little girls.
That is, don't even try to tell me because someone in their group saved one girl, they're trying to be better. Please don't tell me that's what you're saying.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm
creating different personalities to de-traumatize themselves.
At the very least, from Annie's perspective, she's shown vulnerabilities and she's shown weaknesses in her emotional state that have been caused by her wanting to do the right thing in these circumstances. Like, let's say, not killing Armin. Not killing Armin was a circumstance where, realistically, she should have, but she stopped, and she didn't kill him because it wasn't the right thing to do.
Okay, I know what you're saying. She's conflicted, for sure, but at the same point, it's still your actions define who you are, and she still went through with almost every bad action.
Didn't you just tell me a minute ago that you shouldn't judge just by actions alone, and that motives are also important in this?
Yeah, gosh, Scott.
Oh, yes, I'm saying, but her moral background, or what she decided was best, ended up resulting in the action she took. Which were, I guess I'm conflicted about a lot of this shit, but I guess the only thing that my moral question will make me do is not kill Armin. But everything else I can do, and it's completely fine with me.
Well, now you're nitpicking individual scenarios by just saying just Armin's scenario. This has happened on a couple of different circumstances.
A couple with a couple of people, right?
Right, but let's also consider here that Annie's had fewer scenes than any other secondary character in this entire show.
And yeah, with
that hasn't been a kitchen character. And she's also been one of the biggest antagonists, let's say.
Most destructive.
Arguably most destructive. Probably not most destructive, since it wasn't
up
her
there.
that actually broke down.
Pretty high up.
It's probably up there, but we're getting away from the point, I think, which is that shades of gray exist between both this noble of heroic characters in Erwin and this girl that everyone hates.
And here, I'm gonna throw back at you. You're doing a cop-out answer.
Really? That's what you're coming at me with?
Yeah, that's a cop-out answer. Is this character good? Oh, well, blue 42 shade of gray,
You're killing me with this. That's not enough of a response, because I've been arguing for the shade of gray the entire time.
The shade of gray isn't a response in is she good or is she bad.
It is, because the question is asking...
your own parallel answer out of thin air.
The question is asking whether we agree that Erwin is going to suffer for the atrocities that he's...
Then why are we even talking about Annie?
I brought it up as a comparison.
Yeah, but the comparison became the entire argument, so that was bad.
I think it's
you were bad and you should feel bad, Stiller.
It's a good comparison, I think, because they have similar arcs in that regard.
But Erwin is much more pure in his motives.
Sure, if you want to say we should have just answered the question that way, fine. But I think it was a good topic to talk about.
It was. I'm not saying it was bad that we talked about it. It's just, it doesn't pertain to the question. Take that for what you will, but... Alright, are we done with it?
I think you're copping out to get away from the argument now.
What else would you want to say, Sir Stiller?
Well, I'm not even sure now, since you moved us away from the topic so hard, since you're wanting to get out of this question so bad.
I know, now you're trying to confuse the minds of people as if I was trying to get away.
Am I, or are you doing the same thing
You're trying to mind wipe people. No. We already talked about everything that needed to be talked about, so I'm moving on.
We're definitely swapping between perspectives on this one.
Oh, okay. Alright.
Who do you guys think is going to start calling the shots now that the walls are under new management? Do you think Krista is just going to be there for show like the old king was?
No, I don't think Krista... Okay, this goes back to when Levi was saying that Historia should be the ruler. I don't think even he had in his mind that he was thinking Historia was going to be like this dictator or like this ruler who ruled with an iron fist. I think he knew that she was just like a figurehead of sorts that had power, but more along the lines of it was a group effort. It was like now the Scouting Legion would take control and she would be the head, is kind of the point. I don't think they ever thought for 1 minute that Historia, that's a good person to singularly rule. It's like, no, it's a group effort.
I don't see her being a figurehead. I think at the moment we're going to be under the management of Zackley. I think he's probably going to take over. Whereas, sort of what Scott was saying, the plan about Historia, I think was a long-term plan and not a stopgap. Because I think Zackley is the stopgap until we can take over what the military police had set up. Until we're familiar with their internal systems, we're familiar with their resources, and we can sort of proceed with how we want humanity to go in the future. In that interim is where we're going to have the stopgap with Zackley, until we can actually make the case for Historia taking the throne, actually make the case for humanity going under her rule in the future. I think it's a long-term, big-scale effort that'll take a lot of time to develop.
I think that Zackley has control now, and I think that many in the military are going to be very wary about reinstating any form of monarchy this soon after they just got rid of the last tyrannical one. So I think that Zackley will remain in control for the foreseeable future. And if not Zackley, then just the military in general.
Yeah, I can see that. That's pretty much what I was saying. Scott, what was your stance on it again?
That kind of got away from the original question. What was it again?
You're one to talk about getting away from the original question.
See this? This is exactly what I'm talking about right here.
I don't even know.
Scott, you set yourself up for that one. Come on.
I didn't, though, because it was even established in the beginning that wasn't what happened.
Can you find it now?
Look, he highlighted the question for you.
Yeah, what do you think is going to start calling shots now that the walls are under new management? Yeah, do you think Chris is going to be there for show? That's what we were trying to answer. So I think in terms of Krista, no, she's not going to be like calling the shots as if she's the only person. It's going to be a group effort where she's up there for sure and she has a say, but it won't be like she's calling the shots. No, this is going to be the way we run things. It's going to be more as like, oh, well, everybody agrees. Okay, then Krista give out the order.
So what you're saying is democracy.
Precisely.
Okay, I'm glad you cleared that up. That's why I asked you to restate it. I'm glad we got that cleared up. Zach, I think we had a different stance. I don't think we totally agree with that, but I think that's fine. We can move on from that. Next question. What, if anything, do you think will happen to or with the mustachioed MP who Levi also
Really?
Ravioli.
Stiller.
Woo.
If Sarah were here, she'd just straight up murder you.
Woo.
Levi.
What, if anything, do you think will happen with or to the mustachioed MP who Levi interrogated? If nothing further happens with him, do you think he will have been a pointless character?
Oh, damn it, I just edited to say kitchen character.
Or do you think that his purpose has already been served in
showing some aspect of Levi's character?
That. I haven't been following Levi's character that much.
Levi's character?
Yeah, I haven't really been paying attention to him a whole lot, so I can't really answer that one too well, just because I don't like Levi, so I'm kind of biased in that regard. But
I think he was just, whatever that plot device is that's called, just to be there, just to tell a little story, give a little information.
Exposition
guy.
Is what you call that. I think the mustachioed MP is a kitchen character. I don't think we'll ever see him again.
He's just Sana's.
Sana's at least had a role in the story. This guy was just...
Yeah.
Random guy.
Dialogue box.
Actually, no, he did have a role in the story. He's the one that let it slip to Mikasa that there are other Ackermans.
At this moment, that means nothing. Absolutely nothing.
You could say that at many points to the series, Stiller.
Levi already knew that to begin with, so it was only a thing for Mikasa.
He didn't. Mikasa didn't, and that's big.
But Mikasa didn't even react to it. That's going to create tension
between Mikasa and Levi, and possibly Mikasa and the rest of the group, because she's going to say, wait, don't kill Kenny yet. I want to know what the fuck's going on with this Ackerman shit.
I'll be amazed if that phrasing goes beyond 3 words from her, honestly, because she caught that after he said that. There's no reaction from her. There's never any reaction.
That's a lie. I mean, Mika had this whole big write-up about Mikasa there, and I disagree. In the panels, she's looking shocked. She's looking,
she's got that dead fish-eyed stare she always has.
Agree to disagree?
Shocked
because you're just an idiot here.
Just an idiot.
You're just an idiot.
If that's how you're going to present that argument, I think it's pretty clear who the idiot is.
Mika, I know you're listening to this. Send Stiller that essay.
Scott, what did you think?
I don't know if I should.
I think Scott's half asleep.
This is a volatile subject. No, I think
everything's a volatile subject with us.
Scott, do you want to answer that or no?
I just think he's going to be a kitchen character. He's not going to have any purpose.
Cool.
We were wrong last time when we thought that Flagel wasn't going to serve any purpose.
True. I never said that. I was completely against that.
I totally said that, and I was wrong about it. So, there's that. I said a minute ago I don't think we'll ever see him again. I'm going to stick by that. I might be wrong again, but it doesn't seem like he's ever going to come back. So, moving on. Next question, I guess.
There's been some talk about Erwin becoming a Gary Stu. Agree or disagree, and why? Does anyone here know what the hell a Gary Stu is?
It's the male version of a Mary Sue.
But they just call Levi a Mary Sue, so...
That's technically not correct, because Levi's a guy. That should
What's
also
Gary
be
Stu again?
Gary Stu is the male version of Mary
No, I said Mary Sue. What's a Mary Sue?
Oh, a Mary Sue...
Is that just like Deus Machina?
A Mary Sue is what I think of Mikasa, if that makes it easier for you.
Well, I know that. Everyone says Levi and Mikasa are Mary Sue, so does that just mean some character that's ridiculously powerful for no damn reason?
It's more than that, but that's part of it, basically.
So it's just Deus Ex Machina personified then?
There's a slight difference between a Deus Ex Machina and Mary Sue, because Mary Sue embodies all the perfect qualities you see from a stereotypical main character, where they're perfect at everything without having a lot of explanation. People like them without having a real reason to. I forget what the actual checklist goes by. There is actually a checklist for it. But basically the idea is that the character has perfect qualities without a whole lot of explanation to them, and they cover various grounds. Like, okay, she's popular because reasons, she's strong because reasons, her backstory's the best because reasons. Basically anything because reasons.
I think that Erwin is the least Mary Sue or Gary Sue like quality character that's pretty much in this entire series, because all of the points you just mentioned go against Erwin. Like, he's not even necessarily that strong. We haven't seen his fighting capabilities. We've seen his leadership capabilities, but the one time he fought, he got his arm ripped off, really. I mean, there haven't been many moments to show that Erwin's this, like, stronger than normal character. He's not liked by everyone in the show, at least, because he's about to get killed.
He's hated by most of the population.
Yeah, he's hated by most of the population. And people like him not because for no reason, but because he's a badass who goes in and does what needs to be done disregarding like the casualties, but he knows it for the greater good. So there's a lot of reason to like Erwin that are really outlandish characteristics that aren't particularly like, what's the word I'm looking for? That aren't particularly outputted in main characters. Like, they don't usually show like, oh, you know, I'm going against the grain. Usually main characters go with the flow of like their archetype, which is like, I'm going to do everything for very strict, like, politically correct reasons. But Erwin's like, is it going to take 50,000 people to take these Titans out? All right, let's throw it at him. So he's very like not stereotypical in that aspect.
To call him a Gary Stu would be to say that he doesn't have any depth, basically. That he doesn't have any character, he doesn't have any personality,
but he does.
That he's a plank of wood. That's what we would be saying if we agreed with that statement, okay? I also don't agree with that statement. Obviously, just because I just compared him to Annie. That's a big deal for me.
You hear that, Cooney Bob?
I obviously think Erwin has quite a bit of depth, and he's a very interesting character that would be good to do a character analysis on. Thus, there's no way in hell I would ever call him a Gary Stu. No way.
I also would say that, sure, Erwin's a little OP by now, but that's just from plot armor. Isayama's already shown that he's not willing to kill Erwin, but Erwin I'd argue Erwin has more character than anyone else in the series.
So can we say that Erwin is your new favorite character?
No, I would not say that. I do not choose my favorite character based on their amount of character, because then why the hell would you choose Annie as your favorite character? She's like a slab of rock with a nose that sticks out a foot.
So clearly you've never listened to anything I've ever said.
Not really. I just tend to tone out whenever we start talking about Annie.
Right.
Anyways, that's not the point.
That explains a lot about you, Zach.
I choose characters based on something I like about them. Hanji. I like Hanji. I choose her as my favorite character because I like how she's wacky, off-the-walls, mad scientist. And yeah, I kind of do dislike how she's gone more actual, logical, nice, not crazy person in these last few chapters.
Oh, it's because Hanji has a character that also needs to develop beyond being the wacky scientist.
Yeah.
Because if we tune her up to your specification there, she is a one-note, sort of one-dimensional archetype, and that doesn't attract very many followers. Alright, so is that the last of the questions?
Nope. One more.
One more? Next question.
Last question.
Last question. Due to this chapter being more of a revelation / closing up loose ends point in the story, I have a more retrospective question. I would like to ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being you agree the most, how much of a waste of time was Squad Levi? Also,
this is 2 questions, so I'll stop you there.
Okay, fine.
I don't understand the question.
A waste in what sense?
A waste of time with Squad Levi, meaning they weren't important to the plot, they weren't important to the story, they were just kind of there to be there. So,
I mean,
I'd say a 7 or 8 in that case then.
Remember, like, higher numbers mean you agree more.
Yeah.
I don't think Zach, they made everything happen. They're like the main... They did everything.
Squad Levi is not Hanji and Erwin. Squad Levi is Sasha, Mikasa, Connie,
They did
John,
like
Armin.
they did a ton of everything. They got everything. Number one, in the very beginning, they were the people who approached Kaney and like got in the entire fight, and they got the
that was
information.
Levi, and Levi alone.
Okay, Levi's part of Levi's squad.
Here's
Clearly,
the deal with Squad Levi, excluding Levi, right? That squad did the groundwork. They laid the groundwork and they laid the foundation for Levi to have his cool guy scenes with Kenny. So, if anything, Squad Levi, although they didn't get as much character development as they probably should have, without them, this arc isn't what it is. Without them, we don't get the setup with Levi being able to do most of the things he did in this arc. So, if I had to give it a number, man, I don't know.
I'd rate it pretty low on not agreeing with that statement because all the events surrounded them pretty much besides the Hanji, which was more the latter part of this arc.
I guess I'll give it a 3.
I'm around there too.
I'd say 3. That might even be too much.
7 or 8, Zach. If you take them
6, fine, happy.
out, okay. You are less retarded.
Go
Congratulations.
fuck yourself.
How surprised were you at the revelation that Pixis was bluffing in regards to his support for Erwin?
0 out of 10.
Yeah,
Are we
because
using the same scale?
Yeah. Same author, same scale.
it was pretty much foreshadowed when Erwin was like when they showed the flashback regarding Pixis and Erwin's conversation. Aaron was like, but in case this doesn't go well, and it was like, ... And then the events happened, it's like, wow, I never saw that coming.
Yeah. I mean, they tried to throw us off the trail by trying to make us think that Pixis wasn't going to support him.
And they tried to throw us off the trail more by saying, oh my god, the walls are breached, guys!
When Pixis said that he wasn't committed, he wasn't sure if he wanted to commit to Erwin's plan because he didn't believe that Erwin would actually be able to pull it off. That's a moment where they tried to throw us off the trail, and I think it was pretty obvious to most people that Pixis was going to come through. I might be contradicting myself from an earlier podcast, but I don't seem to recall saying that
5 minutes
it
ago
wasn't going to come through.
Because it was like 2 pages later, or very shortly after, where they reassumed the conversation with Pixis and Erwin, and then and then Erwin was like, but also, and it was like, clearly there's more to this conversation that's going to come out.
Yeah.
And then the panel where before the breach of the wall, before the fake breach of the big walls, Erwin was like smiling. That panel, because he knew something was going to come up. So clearly he knew that what was going to happen before it already happened, which means the walls clearly didn't get breached unless he orchestrated that, which would be really outlandish. So,
hey, Ryan, old buddy, old pal, want to do me a favor and just get down to skate tomorrow?
The other this question might also be referring to Pixis's line where one of the nobles, asked him, Pixis, do you endorse or agree with any of Erwin's claims?
Do you share these?
Yeah, and Pixis said,
thoughts?
no, I think he's wrong, or he's an idiot, or whatever he said. I think that might be also what the question's looking at.
right.
And obviously, it's that line of him saying that he didn't agree with Erwin was, I think, to help set up the real bluff that was coming, right?
Oh, of course he was.
And
he's not just gonna say, "Yep, I agree, chop my head off."
If we consider that a revelation, I'm not really surprised. Anybody agree with that or disagree with that?
Yeah, I think our silence is agreement.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Sure.
All right. So that's the last of the questions. Then we got through all of them, absolutely all of them, and
Except the ones that we blacklisted.
And none of them at
Some
all were left out. Not a single one.
They actually weren't. Just the 1, 2, 3, 4 blacklisted ones that we didn't answer.
Yeah, any of the questions we actually didn't answer were ones that we already talked about, or some of them we probably actually answered again anyway. I think. Right?
They were blacklisted, they were just troll questions like, go on from Isayama, or How do you feel about the seductress Sasha attempting to NTR the fair maiden hitch away from Princess Annie? Stuff like that.
Yeah. Is Erwin sexually attracted to Titans? Stuff like that.
Aaron, not Erwin. Oh, God.
There's a
Did I
case.
say Erwin?
You said Erwin.
It's a
Oh.
Freudian slip.
Yeah, I don't buy that.
Sure,
But,
whatever you say.
Yeah. Okay, well, I mean...
See you next month, guys!
Yeah, that's the end of our questions, so I guess that wraps up this edition of A Cast on Titan. Super on time, as always.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, super on time. So that answers all the questions we had for this month. We're gonna go ahead and call it a night.
Call it a month.
We will see you guys in a couple weeks, hopefully.
Couple days.
After this podcast goes live, there will be a week or two before the next chapter comes out. With that in mind, I will give myself that one. With that in mind, this has been the Chapter 61 edition of A Cast on Titan, and we will see you guys next month.
See ya.